Да пожаловать на стрим. Хорошее настроение гарантировано. Спасибо за лайк. Новости на...
Как все будет? Хотите? Что у меня этот микрофон сейчас подключен? Он не сказал. Так. Микрофон. А, ну вот этот и есть. Ага. Это микрофон от наушников. Не надо автор. Живи дефолт. С этим микрофоном.
Few survive this world, but those who do awaken. The desert wants you dead, off-worlder. If the sands don't take you, the storms will swallow you whole. But you don't have to walk this path alone. In every danger, there is opportunity. The foundation of something greater. A power waiting to be harnessed. desert power. Some claim to rule this planet. But Arrakis is yours to explore. To fight for. To conquer. But there are forces beyond even your control. Master Arrakis, and it will open your mind. This is your path to awakening.
Блин, ну, настройки там прикольные, между прочим. Попозже будет. Блин, ну я надеюсь, что не через год, а там, ну ладно, там через месяц, 3 месяца.
Hello everybody to our, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, last developer live stream before our head start and the full launch of Dune Awakening. I'm Natasha Rösli, I have the honor to be your host for today, and I think I'm not the only one when I say I'm so excited for you to experience what our teams have been working on for the past years. So, some of you have gotten a taste of what the game feels and looks like during the beta weekend, but today we go beyond the beta and show you a glimpse of mid and end game of Dune Awakening. We have first a little segment where we talk beta and combat. We then have live gameplay of Haga Basin and also social hubs. We go into live gameplay of the Deep Desert. And as always, we have a Q&A in the end, where we'll be connecting questions from you, from chat, live during the stream. But before we dive into all of that, let's watch a brand new video.
Combat in Dune Awakening is the fusion of melee, shields, ranged, abilities, and vehicles. As you progress, your tactical options expand, allowing you to express yourself through different styles of play. In the beginning, combat is a short, brutal affair. Do everything you can to knock your opponents off balance and open them up for a retaliating strike. Keep an eye on your stamina, or find yourself in trouble. Early abilities change the paradigm. Use the voice to force your enemies to come to you. Shigawire Claw to stagger an enemy. Knee charge into melee range. Ranged weapons like the Mauler pistol allow you to maintain distance and take down enemies from afar, until a shielded enemy enters the fray. Holtzman shields change the nature of combat. Their kinetic barrier can only be pierced by slow-moving objects. Fast on defense, slow on attack. Swords, daggers, kinjals, and rapiers are effective for dealing with shielded enemies, but without a shield of your own, you will.
Ну вот в этой игре, между прочим, PvP выглядит интереснее, чем, например, в Арке.
Shields also have a weakness beyond the slow blade. Ranged attacks cannot be fired from inside an active shield, creating a window of opportunity for the others to exploit. Specialized range weapons can counteract shields. The drill shot rifle fires drilling darts that will attach to a shield and slowly pass through. The disruptor fires statically charged darts at variable speeds to overwhelm the power supply of the shield. Abilities can turn the tide of any battle. Swordmasters use their deflection ability to close the distance and bring their crippling strikes to bear on their enemies. Troopers use their techniques to take to the air and bring death from above. Bene Gesserit stop enemies in their tracks with the power of the voice, or use their Bindu dash to quickly close the gap. Mentats control the battlefield with their sentinel, or use the Hunter-Seeker for a silent takedown. Abilities, ranged weapons, shields and melee work in concert to allow mastery. But beyond mastery lies the spice. Consume it to awaken. Transcend human limits with new abilities and prescience, seeing what others cannot, the narrow path to victory. Combine these techniques freely to experience sandbox combat. Create unique strategies and bring them to bear against your foes. Always remember, Arrakis takes the weak.
Сломанный у них этот бенчмарк. Нету
And
смысла.
we are back and diving straight into our first segment, showing you mid-game in the Haga Basin towards end-game as well. But first, let's of course introduce our guests for today. Here on this side, we did let him out of the doghouse. We have Joel Bailos, aka Chris Knife, our creative director. Joel, you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Hi everybody. My name is, I have to admit it, Joel Bailos this time. So because this is the last live stream, I'm going to admit that my name is Joel.
Love it.
It's fine. And yep, looking forward to talking about everything we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
Yes, and on this side we have Scott Jr., our executive producer on the game, new face.
Yeah. Finally let me out.
Yes.
The game is gone.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's good to see you both, and good to talk about Dune finally.
Very excited. So, Scott, let us do a little bit of a throwback to beta.
Sure.
Players, as mentioned, have had, let's say, not a small taste, but a taste of the game, the survival aspect of the game.
Human
Maybe we can have an
info как
infographic where we
portals.
actually see what the players in the beta were able to experience. Here we have a little infographic. What was the
Ты
most
про
important
какие
takeaway from
порталы?
this beta?
I think getting the game in so many people's hands so they can understand what we made. When we started working on Dune, we wanted to make more than just a normal survival game. We wanted to make a very Dune game, first and foremost. And so that's not obvious, right, what we were doing, because we were taking a lot of risks trying to do some new takes on things to make them more Dune than survival. So we have a lot of people finally being able to play the game and understand, what we're trying to do. So that was great. And then seeing the feedback and the reactions and all the social media posts, all the YouTube videos, it's been fantastic seeing all the feedback. My personal takeaways is that we had a couple technical issues that we were able to sort out and get fixed pretty quickly. Some issues with some crashes and freezes that we've already fixed. So I'm really excited to get the game out next week so everybody can see what we've changed.
Yep.
Anything
100%.
you wanted to add?
No, I mean, for me, it's just a lot of fun to watch people finally playing. Like, someone asked me on Discord like a year ago, like, tell us about the game. They wanted me to describe the game. They weren't in the beta. And I was like, well, it's very hard to describe because it's something unique. Yes, it has some familiar survival stuff, but we've layered it all underneath the Dune IP. And it's really hard to describe how all of those things come together
Получается,
to create something
они
that I feel is kind of unique and interesting.
постепенно
Right?
контент добавлять
So,
будут в эту
yeah, I
игру.
think it was fun for people to really get their hands on it. I mean, we've been talking with the closed beta players for a while, but seeing people in the world having it, streaming it, putting up YouTube videos, talking about what they were experiencing, I think importantly, people finding out whether they like or dislike the game as well, because I really like people to be able to make an informed choice about what they're buying as well. So, yeah.
100%. I think one thing I can add to this as well is, like, for me, having a little bit more of a bird's eye view of how the developers and the teams were reacting to this, because me too, we have been so close to the game for such a long time, you can't really judge it anymore, like from a normal like gamer perspective. And then seeing all those amazing kind of, obviously there was feedback as well that we kind of needed to address and things, more on that in a second. But it was just so fun to see how everyone kind of was like, no, we have something here, like people are enjoying it and they're getting it and they're like having fun playing the game, and that was really great to see from that perspective as well, like just overall.
And the moments like people almost getting eaten by the sandworm, right? Those are very tense moments that happen in the game, and just seeing the reactions for people has been fantastic.
Exactly.
Yeah, there was one thing I really enjoyed, was also like watching people coming in, I don't want to say skeptics, but they kind of, as they hit the beats of the game, as they progress through the game, in the beginning they're like, okay, this is this and this is this, and they kind of, and then like they're like, wait, you can combine the suspensor belt and the Shiga claw, and you can, oh wait, you can do these things?
Вот сейчас я заметил, между прочим, одну вещь, что мне как PvE игроку не очень нравится. Надеюсь, что это только на PvP серверах будет. Короче, каждую неделю вайпаться карта будет. Серьезно?
And they just were growing more positive as they played more, right? And that to me is huge. It's really important.
Yeah, and it's, as I mentioned, that are the things that are really great to see from kind of an outside perspective as well.
And it was good. Just it's the first slide was showing this, right? It's just the first 20 hours, so it's just a taste of the game, right? It's just the very beginning of Act 1. We have so much more to show, and
which
the best parts are here to come.
The rest, kind of it, like a little bit of the stream as well. But going back to the beta weekend, there were of course some things
Или это во время бета-тестирования? Непонятно.
PvP moment in the broadcast, and when it comes to melee combat specifically. But we have actually worked on this and addressed it. Scott, maybe you can give a bit of context.
Yeah, so
to that.
we were aware of this issue. We've been in closed beta for a year and a half almost now, right? The new combat came in August of last year.
Yep.
And we've been making tweaks based on feedback and playtests that we've been doing. So going into the beta, we knew that there was that issue around stamina and what would happen if it ran out. And we'd already been working on it for over a month to try to fix it. So we patched out a change to it. Do you want to go over the details of that?
I mean, the high level changes it's something like this now, right? So heavy and slow blade have been separated as attacks. So a heavy staggers people now, and then a slow blade finishes them off, like it goes into the slow blade attack. So you actually, now holding the button, you'll actually do a heavy attack. All attacks have now got proper stamina costs attached to them. And then in addition, if you're in a place where you're getting into the stun lock situation, you get an ability which is called Second Wind. It just pops on. It starts to restore your stamina bar quickly so you can dodge out of any sort of stun lock in that situation. So yeah, we've been doing balance around stamina costing on everything. We've been doing balance around the way, attacks work. I think it's all working pretty well. Scott and I did a fair bit of PvP ourselves.
We're pretty bad at
on
it.
the top of a shipwreck.
Did you do well?
Yeah, I won.
Day one, and Joel won day two. Maybe?
I think you won day one, but that was because on the second day I slotted the Bene Gesserit technique, the Mentat technique, which allowed me to avoid his voice power.
Sure.
And then he wasn't able to get me anymore. So then it was fun. Like it's fun to see how
approach.
how the dynamics work, right? So it was a lot of fun. And yeah, I mean, I think we're still, we put it on the closed beta. We're getting feedback from people and testing. But one thing is important to stress, right? It's a live game, and we're going to continue to patch and update. So we'll be paying a lot of attention to what happens as the game goes live and as people are playing. And, we're here to make the game better. That's our job. So
yeah, absolutely. That's beautifully said. Thank you. But enough just a dry talk. Let's jump into some gameplay. So we actually have an example of group gameplay. I'm like, that word is just not as many.
I thought you were going to, when you said dry examples, I thought you were going to break out the wine. But let's.
Maybe I should. Maybe I would go better with alcohol. But yes, so we have some group gameplay, mid game actually.
Yeah, mid-ish game.
We can probably just comment on it as well, what we're seeing and how it's different from what people have seen in the beta specifically.
Sure, you want.
Sure, yeah, I can go. So if you played to the Vermilius Gap, the journey is still very isolated to your yourself, right, and your sand bike, and you have a small base. As you're moving into the next areas, like the Hugget, or this is the Rift, right? You unlock the buggy, and the great thing about the buggy is it allows you to start mining from your vehicle, and the resource requirement as you go further and further into the game is more intense. But the buggy and other systems like that allow you to increase your harvest rate also.
Yep.
And this is a fantastic part, right? Just moving around, going to the different resources, either switching yourself to the turret, or if you have a friend, having the friend man the mining laser, right? And then being able to harvest resources.
Yeah, the buggy's a multi-seat vehicle, right? So when you get to the mid-game, it's good to start crafting that, right? And then you can get out there and you can harvest. It has a huge inventory space as well, compared to like the sand bike or what the players can carry. Our philosophy of design with the game, like I've seen people asking for more inventory space on their character, but our philosophy of design for the game was that you build vehicles and they become your inventory space. You can see how big this is and how much volume it can hold. So the buggy really is like your mining vehicle of choice as you get into the mid-game. And if you're playing with friends, someone's on the turret, someone's in the driver's seat, you can have a friend in the passenger seat as well. You can bring multiple people, but you can also just like do this alone, jump between seats. In the interaction menu, you just select, I want to drive now, I want to sit in the turret seat and mine. But I want to talk a little bit about this location because we're in this place called the Haga Rift. And as you can see, it's this dark, gloomy, it's basically a geological ditch. And Herbert talked about this in the book. He talked about the folk of Pan and Graben. And this Graben are these big ditches, these big chasms that you have on Dune, on Arrakis. And in here, it's like the sunlight doesn't really penetrate to the bottom. And down here, there's been this ongoing war of attrition between the Atreides and the Harkonnen over this shipwreck, which is central to this area. And then as you come up out of the Haga Rift, you come back into these other areas of the map, and it's like, it's a different style and tone to the desert. And I know people have been concerned, or at least been worried that like everything's one biome, but as you go down into the Rift, you feel it's a very different place. And shout out to our world director, Jeff, like one of his big key points about the world was making sure that we had a lot of verticality. And I think Haga Rift is like an absolutely perfect example of how you can just keep going down and down through these galleries, and there's bases built up through the entire side. It's just this really fun place to be.
It's like, make it deeper, make it deeper.
Exactly.
I remember he mentioned that.
And this is where all the lights come into play. So headlights on vehicles, personal lights on players come in. At this point, this is where you start bringing things, and yeah, it's fun.
And it's so huge because when you fly, you need an ornithopter too. It's like wide, and yeah, it's really fun to explore that way too.
And the music and the setting and the atmosphere when you're down, right? You've been in the harsh desert and the Vermeos Gap with like the bright lights on you the entire time, going like from shadow to shadow to preserve water. When you get down there, like the music team's done a very good job of just setting the atmosphere. It feels almost cool.
Is that
when you're down there?
That's our base in the distance there too, I think, where we're heading. So you can see the wreckage of like the wall. You can see that's a deserter base. Like because of the war of attrition that's been happening here, some of the Atreides and Harkonnen have deserted, and they've set up little camps around here, and they create like they're obviously hazardous. But now we're coming to a base that we created for this, and this is the Atreides base building set. Yeah. And this kind of, I think this is this is a great example of what you can do outside of the square blocks that everybody was seeing in beta because they only had access to the first couple of sets.
Yeah, and what's important as you get into the mid-game, you start building up your infrastructure, and that's just as important as your equipment or your vehicles. So even if you lose a vehicle, right, like you make your buggy and you get unlucky enough to get eaten by a sandworm, like the infrastructure will allow you to get back on your feet way quicker than that first.
Can we stop for a second and show a pro tip here? I really want to pro tip something. So can someone go and use a chest?
Yes. Oh, you want to mention my favorite thing?
So if you go to wait, is that a chest? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're in a chest in the game and you have a vehicle anywhere on your land claim, you can go to the top of the inventory on the left there where it says backpack. It says backpack on the left-hand side, whoever's driving. Up there,
there
and click the drop down, and you can select the vehicle storage. This is a massive quality of life for getting things in and out of your vehicles.
Вот это
Because
удобно
we see
будет.
that- we know it's a little bit hidden. It's not the easiest thing to find, but once you know about this, it ups your quality of
что
life.
через свой
immensely, because you
инвентарь
can just
сможешь
drive in with a buggy full of stuff,
переключиться
go into
на
your base,
инвентарь
click any chest,
своего
click on the
транспорта
storage
и
drop-down,
из
and
транспорта
start taking
автоматом
things out of the back of
в
that
ящики
vehicle.
ресы
It's something
скидывать.
that the beta tester suggested, isn't it? Like directly?
Yes,
Yeah.
This was something
Yep.
people were asking for during the closed beta, and we
Exactly.
implemented it. Yeah.
Another thing that I mentioned before, which is such a small quality of life thing, but we have that too, is you don't have to empty your chests before you can move them.
Oh, exactly.
This
Yeah.
is like, that's
Yes.
just a complete mind-blowing quality of life change to me. That's like so nice.
Yeah. So the game works in these phases of like, in the beginning, you need a sandbike to get off walking around, right? Then you move to the phase where you want a buggy to help you to harvest and gather resources. And then you move to the phase where you want to start building your first ornithopter. And so we have an example of this here. And the vehicle building in the game is very cooperative, right? You can see that these different, we're now adding permissions to allow people to help us to work on this ornithopter. So this, these guys are all in a group. And so people can cooperatively build. And of course, I think this is the medium, the assault ornithopter, as we call it. So it's the medium tier. But the largest ornithopter, the transport ornithopter, also requires, a lot of parts and a lot of people. So it's kind of part of the way we designed this was to make sure that we had this collaborative building system in the game, both for buildings and for vehicles.
This is my favorite part of the game, just the building the vehicles actually physically in the world, right? Putting the pieces there, working with your friends to make all the parts of them, and then like mixing and matching the different modules to make the vehicle, fit the role that you want to use the vehicle with for that moment.
Yeah, and vehicles come with different module sets, right? So you can put inventories on some. You can, like we talked about the buggy. You can actually have a rocket turret on top of the buggy, which I think you saw in the combat trailer earlier. Yeah. You saw the buggy firing rockets. So you can have different types of things on the different vehicles, and we'll continue to expand that post-launch as well, making the vehicles more and more useful with utility. Yeah, it's fun, right? And then I guess the other side of this is that we can start talking about variants and swatches, which is our
He's
customization
actually going to
system.
change in a second.
Yeah.
We'll actually see that.
So
there we go.
Yeah.
So this
Atreides ornithopter.
these guys are aligned with the Atreides.
Boo.
So here we just switched out the Atreides. And a variant, just to put the distinction in place, a swatch allows you to change the color sets, but a variant allows you to change the physical visual.
The actual
so this
model,
this is the shape of the Atreides. It's got the hawk-like lines. It's got the sharp angles.
Boo.
And the Harkonnen have more of an insectile kind of feel to them.
Yeah.
And so this is and you earn these variants in this case by leveling up in the factions, which is a part of the mid game, which we aren't really showing a ton of that today. But as you join a faction, go through their quest lines, you earn access to these kind of variants and things like that. And then you're able to use the Atreides colors and swatches and variants.
Yeah, both on vehicles and your armor, right?
Yes, vehicles, armors.
You can represent with your Harkonnen clothes running in the deep desert, perhaps.
And that's it's important to note that like a lot of our philosophy around this was as well, like you create, so let's say you create a tier 4, like a mid-tier armor set, and it's like a scout armor. You can variant swap that to look like any other scout armor in the game. You can't turn it into a heavy armor or a combat armor because we want people to understand in PvP what they're fighting, but you can change it into any other visual of a scout armor. And it's the same with social clothing, it's the same with, obviously combat armor, and it's the same with still suits, which I mentioned, which are kind of our 4 major armor types in the game.
And as you mentioned, oh sorry.
No, I was just going to say social medium, social scout, combat, and still suits.
Yeah. And what they're showing right now is the vulture mode and the ornithopters. So ornithopters are great, right? Because you have your helicopter mode where you can move in all directions. You can switch to the vulture mode, and then it's more of like a glider where you're going up and down to gain speed.
Yep.
Yeah, it's basically a airplane mode and a helicopter mode, so to speak.
Yeah,
right?
it's like a hover mode and a glide mode, right?
Yeah.
And the vulture mode allows you to be more maneuverable. You see that they have a boost module. Actually, this is fun. Like when you get to too high an altitude, you start increasing your fuel consumption, which prevents people from going too high in the game.
С Грифоном можно.
People want to stay, close to the ground. Yeah, and now we're flying through an area of the map known as the Shield Wall. which is on the para-northern side of the Hager
Yeah.
Basin. We can talk about the para-directions at some point, because that's always awkward and weird. But because para-north is really south in relative terms to the map. But this is like, these are rocky areas, so the sandworm is less of a threat up here, but the enemies are much harder, and the resources you gather up here are much more value, right, to what you're doing. So these are areas where you harvest.
And the first time you're coming here, you don't actually have an ornithopter. More than likely,
Yes.
you don't, right? So
Yes.
then you're having to make the choice of like, do you bring your buggy here, which is really high, really hard to get to, or do you go with your sand bike and try to climb up the wall? So it's ultimately it's about choice, how you go to each of the biomes, and then which vehicles you bring, right, which enable different mechanics based on the one you want.
Yeah, and like this area we're in now is known as the Uldum as well, and the Uldum has a little more plant growth and a little more greenery, and that's because the Uldum is an area where they were doing experiments on some of the land, and we won't talk too much about it, but yeah, we're gonna fly over. I guess this is
our second base.
This is our second base on the shield wall. Yeah, so this is the
Lots of pens
guild
shields.
base. So this is further into the game. People have progressed a bit. They're probably so we divide the game into 4 phases: survive, protect, expand, and control. So this would be here. You're either on the expand or the control part of the game. The sort of last 2 phases, right? So you've got a bigger guild. You're working with a larger group of people potentially. You can still play the game solo at this point. Everything just takes a little longer and is a little harder to do on your own, right? And you can still do it. You can craft these ornithopters. There's no problem. But we encourage people to play together and work together in a multiplayer game.
And we're showing off some building sets we've never shown before.
Yes.
These will be the Twitch drops.
These are Twitch drops. Yeah.
Exactly. So the one this is actually that one's Chome building set, but those round windows and the ceiling pieces, pretty much everything that's more metal than like white stone, those are actually going to be Twitch drops that you will get. So they kind of expand on the existing Chome tier set, which I love them. I think they're very cool. Yeah. They're really cool looking.
Yeah, and you can see what we'd expect a guild base to look like, right? Lots of production going on. I love.
Короче, на Твиче дропсы тоже будут, на халяву можно будет какие-то скины зарабатывать.
The fabricators actually show the
Тоже
items being
прикольно.
crafted as they craft, so you see them form up inside the fabrication units. And yes, I know this isn't exactly something from Dune lore. This is one of the places where I was like, I have to make a concession to the game. They don't have fabricators, they're not mentioned in the lore, but it's fine because it's cool. Rule of cool in some cases.
Absolutely.
And this is a vehicle fabricator, yeah.
There's also circuits. Have we ever talked about circuits before?
Nope, not actively. You can please feel free.
They're pretty neat. It's not like as intense as like Factorio, right? Making blue science or anything like that. But you are able to set up different circuits in your base, so you can have some containers feeding into some fabricators feeding into others. You'll never have 100% automation like you would get in a factory builder game, but it does enable you as you get to mid-game to start having a fair bit of automation in the game when you're playing, because water and electricity become quite a burden if you don't start upgrading your gear and the infrastructure like we were talking about before. So we introduced passive ways to get water, which is a huge help, because water in the mid and to the end game even is really important through all aspects, not just survival but also crafting.
For my fellow lore nerds out there, we call the passive water generation wind traps.
I was just about to say there are actually some wind traps on this, and we've seen some while we walked by them as well.
Выглядит
And
офигенно.
yeah, it's just like you also see here how much bigger those refineries are. We also saw a spice refinery as well, actually. Like
Yeah, there was
the
spice
round- the round
refineries, yeah,
tubes.
yep. Yeah, and that we just saw a room with some decorations in it as well.
Yeah,
Like just to you can pimp up your area in a sense, like put out holograms. It was quite funny because here's a fun anecdote from development. The artist made a bunch of the artist made a bunch of pot plants for people to put in their bases, and I was like, guys, it's June.
There is no water to water those
So we have a
things
lot of holograms
in your
planted now.
buildings. Yeah,
I was like,
they
we
look
can
great
have.
though.
Then I keep saying the word holograms. Sorry, everyone. Solido projections.
Solido projections.
Solido projections of
You'd be
plants.
yelling at yourself.
Oh my god, I'd be so mad. I'd be so mad if I wasn't me right now.
If you like decorations, you need to explore quite a bit,
Yes.
right? We don't unlock them all.
Yes.
Go to trade posts, go to places where there are people. You can unlock tons of the stuff that you're seeing around in the base here.
Exactly.
You have to work a little bit for
You'd
it.
have to work a
though.
little bit
Yes.
for it. Yeah.
Like explore, find people. they'll
Yeah,
sell you
and
stuff.
and obviously these doors,
Or-
the pentashield doors and things as well. Like once you reach a certain stage in Dune, you can put shielded doors out, so you don't have to have doors that open and close.
Exactly.
And that's really useful for when you want.
Только до сих пор не понял, там одиночная игра тоже будет или только онлайн?
Some of the cool stuff I've seen in
Если
beta is
только
they'll
онлайн,
make
то это
a
очень плохо.
huge base, but it's kind of covering a road. So they'll open up
yep.
the middle of it and then set the permissions on the pinto shields so that you can actually drive
Public,
through it. So you
yes.
can't go into their base, but you can still go through the middle of their
Yes.
base, which is nice.
It's nice.
Yeah, I agree.
Good guy players.
Good guy players, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we're actually gonna go up to the roof now and build a transport ornithopter.
Oh, nice.
Great.
Which
No.
not
No.
yet. Okay, not yet.
No, we're not.
Excuse me.
We're not. We're
We're gonna
wrong.
run around the base a little
not
bit
wrong.
more.
We're
Yeah,
still
yeah.
we're still
Oh.
doing other things.
That's in. Yeah. Okay.
But
few ornithopters.
what
hovering
we'd
around.
like to do is because we're actually going to go to a social hub later on, and we'd like to throw that to. Unfortunately, we can do only Twitch, so I'm sorry, YouTube. We love you over there too.
Будет как
It's
раз.
just our bot is being a bit difficult, so we'd like to do a
Ну,
poll.
мне
to
кажется,
throw that to Twitch
намного
chat
круче.
only, for today. Which of the social hubs you'd like to see? We have two available in the game
Здесь
right
намного
now.
больше возможностей, во-первых.
One is
Во-вторых,
Arcane,
карты
the other one is
намного
Cargo.
больше.
And you can choose which of those you'd like to see today. So we give you like a few minutes to vote on that while our rock stars and wizards behind the scenes are preparing that poll for you, if it's not running already. And,
Ну, я в плане того, что чистый
One of the cool
онлайн.
things that they were
А,
just showing there.
а
is
уже
the
известно, да, что только
Yeah,
онлайн
we
будет?
talked about that on stream
Блин, ну
too
вот
much.
это плохо.
But once
Единственная
once you
надежда
build a
тогда,
sandbike
что
or a
разрешат
online
делать свои
ornithopter, you
сервера,
can actually build a tool
и
to
тогда просто
hide
тупо
it.
можно
So,
будет
like,
сделать какой-то закрытый
that's
сервер
the lore reason, Joel.
и на нем играть.
Let's go with the Richie's perfected miniaturization
Sure,
technology,
sure.
and the player is able to miniaturize their vehicle, and it only works for vehicles that have nothing in their inventory.
Correct, yeah.
And two types of vehicle: the sand bike and
Yes.
the light scout ornithopter.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, we're flying past.
Highly recommend always using it, right? When
Yes.
you're going to a location,
Yes.
land, store your vehicle.
Скорее
don't
всего,
let it get
самим
destroyed by
делать не
I learned
разрешат
that
сервера,
by myself too.
но в аренду
Never do
брать
that
можно
mistake
будет.
ever
I
again.
see. We've gone with spoiler
Ooh.
territory here, and we're flying over the giant power station of Misatariel.
Don't look.
I don't want to talk too much about it, but we'll let people figure that out in the game.
It looks cool. From
It's
the
my
box,
favorite
so it's like-
location.
Me
It's-
too.
It's
Mine
really
too.
absolutely amazing.
Mine too.
And the
Mine
story
too.
involved in it is
So
really cool.
please look forward to
Yeah.
it.
And there we have someone doing their vulture roll, which is very nice. Can you hit your scanner as well, whoever's flying?
I'm not sure if you did it.
Yeah, so like that's vehicles obviously get like players got hand scanners probably in the beta, but now you're up to the stage where you actually have a scanner and you're scanning entire like islands by pumping C. So the idea is that again, as you progress, everything just takes a step up in how quickly you can do things. We wanted the game to feel, well, you've put in the effort to get this vehicle. We're going to give you the convenience of being able to scan an entire island very quickly, right?
Yeah.
This is a trade post. This is the Crossroads trade post.
Есть, например, вот такие выживалки, где оффлайна нету, они если будут сдыхать по чуть-чуть, то игра пропадет вообще, и она бесполезная будет у тебя в коллекции. Например, у меня есть выживалка, называется Memory of Mars. Она тоже, в принципе, прикольная игра. Если бы там был оффлайн режим с возможностями настроить по своему вкусу, я бы с удовольствием ее поиграл. Ну, дело в том, что там осталось где-то 3 или 4 этих официальных сервера. Они все пустые, лагучие. И, ну, когда заходишь поиграть, игра как будто прикольная, но на таких серверах, особенно с рейтами X1, ужасно неохота играть. А так игра была бы прикольная. Хоть она старая, но там и графика даже достаточно приятная.
And as we arrive in ARKNET, so one of the features we have in the game is the CommuniNet system. And when a player opens their CommuniNet, they can choose radio stations to listen to in the game, a la like a Fallout game or a GTA game. And this guy, Finno Gary, he runs this trash shop, but he actually has a show on the Atreides radio. And if you listen to the show, it's his daughter talking about their adventures on how they got all this salvage that shows up. So it's kind of fun to just like narratively listen. You know, we tried to connect everything in the world. This is, again, I want to make this point because I feel like I see it sometimes online, and it's a little, let's say, disheartening. People, we were advertising the game and saying the word MMO, and then people were like, oh, they took all that off, and we took it off because we do feel like this is a huge world completely worth exploring with lots of other people, but it's not an MMORPG, and people were getting confused by that. So we took it down. But I think it's clear when you look at places like our social hubs, our exchange system, our banking system, that we have a lot of elements from those style of games here, right? So yeah, we're looking at the exchange right now. Players can post things on the exchange, and this is the banker.
Would you like to
One of the great things here is you can actually store items and credits, right? So say you're going to take a long vacation, you're worried about your base getting destroyed for some reason, you can actually fly to ARKNET and dump a bunch of stuff in here.
I was actually thinking, is like one of the great things here is his mustache.
Sure, yeah,
I
that's
was
also
expecting it to
fantastic.
comment on the mustache.
I mean, we've all seen the,
Fantastic mustache. You also pay taxes here.
Yes.
Like, because you need to, like, for the bigger
Gotta keep your
sub
shields
fees, you
up.
actually need to make sure you have your taxes paid to the
and this is where you pay. This is the
Emperor?
imperial consulate, as we call it. This is where you go to pay your taxes to the Imperium. So the first sub-fief console that you place on Arrakis, the basic one that you place in the starting area, you don't have any taxes to pay on that. But once you get a bit further into the game and you start building bigger bases, you pay taxes. Once you start expanding that land claim, which you do through these land claim extenders, you start paying more tax. So the idea is that the larger guilds who have more members, who are more capable of, like, you know, achieving things in the game, they have a higher tax rate because they're building out larger spaces. And that, you know, that's our way of making it fair for people who only play solo as well, like, so they don't have as much tax.
Логи платить тоже надо будет.
Another important thing about the cities is that's where you really progress through the faction storylines, right? So here's where you're going to come and officially join the Atreides or join the Harkonnens and, you know, start vying for the land's red system and getting involved in the politics of the entire world.
And this is where the advanced trainers are as well, for people who want to progress past the basic level of training in their particular chosen classes.
Except for Derek.
Oh, Derek, the planetologist, he's everywhere.
He's just traveling around.
He's everywhere.
He's a wandering mentor. You can find him anywhere.
Yeah, he's here. He's there. He's everywhere. Derek Schnauer. Okay, no, enough. Sorry.
It's okay. No, but you have contracts here, of course, as well, and
contracts,
specific vendors, so they have a lot of things to sell as well.
Yes, and the main story brings you to these locations as well.
Yes. So now we actually get a glimpse of the overland.
Yes. So you can use the pilots in the trade post to fly to the hubs like we showed, and you use those same pilots to get back. But once you have your own ornithopter, you can just fly to the edge of the Haga Basin map, and you'll get a prompt asking you if you'd like to go to the overland map. And this is the overland map. And this is, again, one of the things that I think kind of breaks us away from your standard survival game. This is where we have the ability to infinitely expand this game, where we have multiple maps that players can go to. I think this is where you go to reach the deep desert. This is where you go to reach several of the story maps. Right now we've landed on a fuel deposit. We're just picking up a bit of fuel, refueling our ornithopter on there. We're able to expand here for a long time, and this is kind of part of what, again, we wanted to do to make this a coherent universe, right? And make Dune feel like something that, you know, we're going to be working on and adding to for a long time.
So post-launch, there will be new locations that show up here.
Yes.
We'll have events that have locations here for short durations, right? For to shake things up, and you know, eventually when we release huge content drops, they'll be accessible through the overland map.
The overland map.
Exactly. One other thing that you can find in the overland map, which also goes into the story, that we really would like to talk a little bit more about, because we haven't, as you mentioned, it takes a while to also get the story going. So people during the beta weekend haven't actually seen much of that. So via the overland map, you can also access some of these story dungeons. And we actually do have some footage of one of those dungeons that await you, and Joel.
We're not going to spoil too much of the story, but this is kind of the theme of Act 2.
Ванкросс, спасибо за подписку на Твиче.
Doing the trials, now you're getting involved in the politics.
Yeah, so there's a lot more interaction with NPCs, dialogue, there's a lot more cinematics, and a lot of locations outside the Hage Basin that you'll be going to.
One of my favorite characters too.
Yeah, she's
I love her. Everyone does.
In the Cone of Silence.
Yeah, we didn't mention the Cone of Silence, but you're inside the Cone of Silence here, and the game actually dampens all the sound outside of it when you enter, which is pretty cool.
Детно, не надейся ты так. Будет как всегда.
The Assassin's Handbook describes certain poison.
В том смысле, как всегда.
Poison in the drink.
That's actually something I didn't know. Like I was wondering about that earlier. Like I didn't know what that means.
So you see, we have a dialogue system in the game where you can make choices based.
Есть такая поговорка: надежда умирает последней.
Your background at the start has some payoff here.
Сотни часов соло-геймплея и корявая Yond Game PvP.
Вполне возможно, да. Ну, так как я больше PvE игрок, то мне это не очень беспокоит. Если там можно будет красивые домики строить, полетать, попутешествовать по карте, то мне уже этого достаточно будет. ПВП, скорее всего, тоже попробую. Ну, не на старте 100%.
Но вселенная классная и выглядит
Да,
красиво.
да. В том-то и дело. В том-то и дело. Мне тоже нравится, как все выглядит.
Yeah, so your job is to infiltrate?
Yes. Yeah, she's talking and explaining the mission, but I can't hear it, so I'm just... But,
one of the things we wanted to do is make sure all...
Ну, слушай, у них этот самый Conan Exiles довольно хорошо получился. Есть свои какие-то проблемы. Ну, достаточно хорошо получился. Сколько лет прошло, у них было достаточно времени понять, где были минусы, где плюсы. Так что вполне...
Там я понял основное PvE, а для PvP будет отдельная площадка.
Да, я тоже так понял.
Как PvE Conan вполне хорошо.
PvP там вообще, нету смысла. Я один раз пробовал, с другом заходили в PvP. Ну, такое себе. Как по мне, на данный момент самая топовая PvP выживалка — это Rust. Других конкурентов у нее нету. Арк был бы, довольно такой хороший PvP. Ну, блин, из-за всех багов и читеров фигня полная.
That one's for everyone for free.
It's for everyone, that's for free. Okay, there you go. I love that we have it in a video too. But there's so many little Easter eggs and fun things that you also wrote, like especially also for like weapon descriptions and things. It's super fun. Like everything's connected. Like for those of you who do like lore and who know Dune lore as well, you will find a lot of connections. But also for the ones who don't, it's super fun to just.
He's also explaining the different ways that you can approach this quest right now. So he's sort of explaining to you, there's like two paths that you can take. Like you don't have to go this way, you don't have to go that way. Here's how you can get in, there's how you can get in, right? So as a player, you can approach this, again, in kind of that sandbox approach. It's like, again, I don't want to oversell it. It's not an immersive sim where you have like the Dishonored level of, but you can definitely find alternate paths into the mansion to achieve your mission. And I think that like a shout out to the story content team with Bernard and the boys, as I call them. They've done a great job with these, setting them up. And here's what Scott was talking about, where I've set the game up in this way. I'm a Bene Gesserit. I'm just going to stun this guy. And then I'll be able to walk past him and he won't even notice me. He won't call the guards because he doesn't see me. Right? And so you can use your abilities, your skills that you've picked up in the game to just pass through these areas. And yeah, it's kind of fun, right? And we just wanted to show that we have more than just...
Вот эта хрень мне, если честно, не понравилась. Вот именно это взаимодействие, то, что надо по этим полосам елозить, и ресурсы также само собирать. Они хорошо знают, что они эту игру делают кроссплатформенную для консольщиков тоже. Ну, не знаю, кросс-платформа будет или нет, но для консольщиков тоже делают. Я в бету, когда скачал, я на геймпаде попробовал вот эти камни лутать. Это, блин, такая херня. То же самое, что меня, например, в Расте тоже бесит, то, что тебе надо вокруг этого камня или дерева бегать и, блин, бить по этому крестику. Но там хотя бы это не обязательное действие. Просто от этого ты больше ресов получаешь. А здесь получается, что тебе обязательно надо этой херней заниматься. И я думаю, если даже, ну, на клаве с мышкой тоже люди сначала скажут, окей, ничего страшного, но когда ты миллионный раз будешь по этому камню елозить мышкой, ну, я думаю, тоже надоест. Зачем такое сделать надо было, блин? Одна из самых больших тупостей, блин. Зачем? Хорошо, вот показывали, что хотя бы позже в игре будет, ну, типа, транспорт, на котором ресы тоже собирать можно будет, и там еще не добавили такую хрень.
And then, as you mentioned, it goes more into learning the actual mechanics and the tutorialization of the game. And we give you time to get a bit acquainted with everything, or not everything, but a lot of the things, like the basic mechanics. And then we...
Представляю уже, как жопы гореть будут тем, которые с геймпада играют. И, например, на PvP ты будешь там, блин, какие-то ресы собирать, и тебе там какие-то восьмерки, девятки надо будет рисовать, блин, на камне. И в тот момент тебя со спины стрелять будут. Офигеть.
Given the right lever, you can move a planet. In Dune Awakening, your path to power leads you through the great houses. But only accomplished guilds may earn their place among the Atreides.
Спасибо за лайк.
ARKNET. Swear your allegiance and contribute to their rise in desert power. The pledge is only the beginning. You have come far, and now it's time to take control of the Landsraad. The Landsraad is the council of great houses that make decisions that impact all the players on all the servers in your world. Your goal, and that of your guild, is to secure their votes so that your faction, the ARKNET or Atreides, can take control. To secure their votes and sway them to your side, you must complete specific house requirements on the Landsraad board. Alone or together with your guild, your efforts can move the needle. Be the first to fulfill a house requirement to not only secure their vote, but also reap their many rewards. Whether you enjoy PvE or PvP, there are many paths to victory. If you prefer the relative safety of the shield wall, there are many activities that will not put you into direct conflict with other players, while still contributing to your faction's rise to power. House Torvald wants you to eliminate sandflies. Rush in, or pick off the deserters one by one with your sniper rifle. House Rashis wants a delivery of ground cars. Join up with friends and build strongholds for large-scale production and deliver them safely to the House representative by ground or air. Large-scale production is costly and will require a lot of resources. To be able to craft certain high-tier items, you will also need the most sought-after resource of all. Spice.
Осуждаю.
You You can buy spice from spice merchants or on the player-run exchange. And it can even be found in smaller pockets behind the shield wall. But to collect industrial quantities, you must venture into the unknown. The deep desert beckons. Here, violent Coriolis storms sweep across the vast expanse of sand, resetting the map every week.
Не, получается, это в игре уже так будет. Каждую неделю, блин, вайп.
To explore. This ever-changing environment offers endless exploration, but also endless conflict. Each house in the Landsraad desires a specific control point in the deep desert. Seize it and hold it over time to gain their vote. Fortify it and be ready for a fight. Other players will soon come to take it from you. The deep desert is also home to frequent spice blows, offering large quantities of the precious melange. You need a lot of spice. Once you've located a spice blow, move your harvesters in place to collect. Just be ready to defend it with your life.
Такие битвы, конечно, в мечтах разработчиков только будут происходить.
After a week of politics, manufacturing, and conflict, one side emerges victoriously. The Harkonnen have seized the Landsraad, and the leaders of the player guilds who contributed to their victory all get to vote for a decree that will impact everyone on a server belonging to that world. They choose to unlock exclusive weapon imports rights. By decree of the Landsraad Council, under the seal of His Imperial Majesty, a trade consortium has been authorized to visit Arrakis, providing Harkonnen players with exclusive access to a unique weapons vendor in Harko Village. As the Harkonnen Landsraad term begins, the race for control in the next term.
Что это сейчас? Проснулся стрим? Вот туда.
Welcome back. No technical problems at all. It's all fine. No one would have noticed if we didn't
Видео
say anything.
сломался.
Sorry.
Ну, если они видео даже багованное сделали, представляем, что будет в игре.
Yes, I can hear it either. But the video is going to be available after the stream anyway, so you can watch it in all its glory. Landsraad. Talking about Landsraad, so let's go to the next segment. Endgame and Landsraad. So we know people have, of course, expectations of what the endgame and Landsraad, and especially Deep Desert, looks like, and what it's for, and how people will use the Deep Desert, and how it works. A lot of those things. But I think before we go into more details and show some really exciting gameplay as well, Joel, I think it'd be cool to talk about the vision for what the endgame is supposed to be, right?
Yeah. I think, like, going back to when I joined the project, like, so this is 5 years ago, right? And we were talking about what is a good survival game, like, because Dune, we were making a Dune survival game, and we were talking about what is the vision for an end game in Dune, And the kind of the goal and the idea, at least in the beginning, was like we started with, hey, like you start by surviving in the desert, and it's that raw nature versus, you know, mankind kind of thing. It's the sun, it's the sandworms, it's the storms. But then you move into this new mode of survival, which is political survival, which is the end game of the game needs to be about these big forces, right? The Imperium is made up of the great houses, the Landsrad, the Emperor, the Spacing Guild, Chome, all of these things have an influence, and you as a player are just a small cog in the machine, but we want you to be able to feel like you're participating in this big umbrella system. And so we started there, and then we talked about, like, there's an element of, like, I think very technical game design here where we talk about player activity cycles through the week. I was looking at, like, games like Rust. You know, Rust has their server resets, which is great for, like, people to start building up, and people really enjoy that cycle. But a lot of people also love having their stuff and not losing it. And so we talked about, like, okay, what about a place, and in Dune it's perfect, right? You have these Coriolis storms, and there's scenes in the book where the sand is just tearing apart cliff faces and ripping down the things in the desert and revealing things from beneath the sand. And so we said, okay, what if we had a map, the deep desert, and in the deep desert, the landscape changes every week. How does that affect gameplay? And then we started there and we talked about, okay, what about if there's a cycle of events that we want players to go through? And again, this is a high-level design.
We might actually have an infographic or a visual asset for that. A week cycle of.
Oh, do we?
Yep.
Cool. Fun. You guys are on top of things. I know nothing. Oh,
No, not that
no.
one.
Sorry, that's
Not this one.
not that one. But okay. Either way, I can
Maybe
just
it's
keep,
not right. Maybe we didn't.
I can just keep talking.
Yeah,
Just
go
keep
for it.
going. It's
Go
fine.
for
Sorry,
it.
everyone. I know it's just
Go for
boring
it.
old Joel. But like we wanted to approach this, right. So we were like, okay, what if there's a map that resets and the map changes every week so that it's an infinitely explorable space? And we worked backwards from there, and we said, how do we build a lot of our game systems towards this? So we started with the idea of, yes, the map resets. When would we want to reset the map? Let's say we reset it on the lowest player activity day of the week, right? Which tends to be a Tuesday night or a Wednesday in these kind of online games. And then we're like, okay, and then there's this activity we call scouting and cartography. And then we built a game mechanic around cartography and scouting, which I think we're going to show in a little bit. And that is, and maybe you saw it, we definitely tutorialized it in the beta, you reveal parts of the map. And then we made it so that you can save those maps and sell them to other players. So we create a loop there for players who are scouts, and that happens, let's say, you know, in a player activity week, it happens during the low ebb. The deep desert gets revealed. Everybody needs information. How do we make information a commodity? We create a cartography and a scouting system. Then once that information is gathered, people share it with their friends and their guilds. Then they start setting up what we call a logistics plan. How am I going to control the spaces in the deep desert that I want to control? What is my guild looking for? Are we looking for spice? Are we looking for unique schematics? Are we going after shipwrecks? Are we going after the ecology labs that have been revealed? Like, what are we doing this week? So then they go set up. And then the weekend, which is when the highest player activity count is, that's when people are online. And that's where people really participate in the activities in the deep desert, whether that is running ecology labs with their friends or shipwrecks or fighting over, like, control points in the deep desert. And then after the weekend, I should say, on top of this as an umbrella is the Landsrad. And the Landsrad are asking you to do activities that take place both in the deep desert, but also outside of the deep desert. Exactly. There's a lot of PvE stuff in there. And then at the end of that activity cycle, everybody votes. It sets a server-wide change, like a worldwide, I think we should say in our terminology. It changes every rule set in the world can be changed by the Landsrad. And then the Coriolis storm happens again on a Tuesday, and we start over again with a new weekly cycle. And this is kind of the vision and dream for how the end game should play out and how we would like it to work. And yeah, I mean, we'll talk about how that we've set everything up for this to be the case, but of course, no plan survives first contact with players. So another point I would like to make is just we're a live game. We'll continue to tweak and update these things. So, but let's maybe look at and talk about it. Yeah?
Yes, let's look at some gameplay, actually, some activities that you might be wanting to do. So we have like actually a team here that will now go into the desert.
Okay, so we've gone through the overland map.
Yeah,
we're in the shield wall, which is the southern part of the deep desert.
it's the PvE area.
Correct.
so to speak.
Yeah.
This is the PvE
it was-
space.
It was important for us so that people that are scared of PvP or reluctant to get engaged with it, right, that they had a place in the deep desert that they could go to without, instantly getting killed as soon as you're coming through, like in warping in, right, gate camping or whatever from other games. And this is also where you set up your base of operations.
Yes.
The very first area, because
Я
the
отойду на
desert
2
is
минутки.
gigantic. There's no water here,
Yes.
and you need to have the logistics set up. And
Yep.
like you can go there by yourself. Like I fly there on beta. I try to stay away from people because, as we said, we're not great at PvP necessarily.
People call it ratting.
Yeah,
Right?
ratting.
You can go in and rat.
Oh, I'm totally right.
Raid.
Absolutely.
But just to point out one thing here, because these guys are using. So again, coming back to like how do we get towards this vision? We started with how do you build this is going to get wiped every week. How do we encourage people to build bases? Well, first of all, we created this blueprinting system. You bring the diagram of your base, you place it out, and you build it quickly, right? This is very fast. It doesn't take very long when you're with a few friends. You get a base put down, you build it up quickly. This is part of the logistics cycle of the deep desert.
And you can either bring the resources from Haga Basin and all the vehicles that you're bringing with you, or you can harvest in there's quite a bit of resources in the shield wall.
Yep.
So you can set this up.
So this is what's happening here. We're building a forwarding base.
Exactly. I was going to say that this is obviously a forwarding base because it is kind of very boxy again compared to like the actual home bases that we saw earlier. Because this is all about efficiency, right?
Yes.
And like fitting your the storages and the all the machines that you need. Now my brain just stopped working. Fabricators. Thank you.
Yeah. And we made a change, or not a change. It's just the building costs are different in the deep desert, so it costs half as much to build
Yes.
everywhere.
Building
and
is
you get
faster,
100%
yep.
when you're breaking things down. Just because we know you're going to be redoing this every week.
Yep.
There's
Yep.
going to be some loss, right? So we're trying to make it easy and accessible in the ways that we can, while still keeping the threat there.
Yes.
And the intensity, right?
Yes. Yeah, I think that's it, right? Like the deep desert is a little bit about that tension as well, that feeling of like, so we're
Exactly.
building here, it's the PvE area. I expect people to build their primary like weekly base in the PvE area and then maybe set out some logistics bases so that they can do things like refining spice. And that's where it becomes an interesting kind of like, we'll see how people play out these scenarios in the actual deep desert in the game, but this is kind of the expected behavior. This is what we hope people will do. And we've tried to build all the mechanics into place so that people can do this, right? And that's been a large part of it.
You also see co-building here. There's actually several people working
Yeah,
on this.
everyone's working together, right?
Yeah,
And
which
that's
is super nice.
that's
too.
the guild focus as well. Like it
Exactly.
is a multiplayer game. It's really important to make sure that people can play together and do things together. And I think the fun part in this game and this style of game is that it extends beyond like the traditional MMO experience of like we can fight things together, right? And we can role play together, but you're not building things together, you're not crafting vehicles together, right? We have those options, which is nice.
Exactly.
And it's just cool to see how quick you can use the blueprint system to get like a gigantic base, right?
Yep.
Even though it's utilitarian, right? But yeah, it does what it needs, and it's quite impressive.
Yep.
I know that people are also wondering that you won't be able to, copy that your setup inside. So this is literally the blueprint is for the building itself. So everything inside.
Correct. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. You still have to put the placeables in.
So we're behind the shield wall. I think we've just left the base now,
Yeah, we're actually
and we're
just showing a little bit of the
Yeah.
PvE area here.
So this
as well.
this is behind the shield wall, and then you come out into the deep desert. And this is like I think. Oh yeah, sorry. Behind the shield wall, there's also PvE elements here. This is the PvE space.
Yeah.
So there are things like shipwrecks that you can raid. There are like eco labs behind here. So there is a section of the deep desert. I know people are really worried about doing PvP. There's a whole section here. It's 24 kilometers long, where you can actually go and like do the PvE part. And we're about to see. Well, this will take a few seconds.
We're actually
survey.
We're in the middle of
just
the survey.
surveying
So now we're surveying the land in this section, and we'll see the segment reveal itself. And this is like one of the PvE segments of the deep desert. And what you'll see here is that we've surveyed 1 square. And just to give some context, that's one of 81 squares within this map. So there are 81 of these squares. It's huge.
Yeah.
There
We're
are
actually also seeing the sync chart that you mentioned earlier
Yes.
as well
Yes.
come into
So,
play.
so now I don't know whose name it is, but whichever player it is crafting a. They have surveyed.
Camille is
Now they're going to
crafting a
craft
survey,
a
yeah.
sync chart, They have crafted a sync chart of the deep desert. It tells you in the information which sector of the deep desert, who created it, how long ago it was created, so you understand whether the information's out of date or in date. They're going to share that sync chart with their friends.
Yep.
And then their friends, hopefully, will be able to switch camera perspective and see their friend apply the sync chart, which saves them having to explore.
Yeah,
so this is that
exactly.
cartography loop.
You could go out with like a really quick ornithopter.
Look at this. That's the deep desert over there.
Oh, sure, sure.
To the left.
But you can go out with like an exploration kit, right? That's really fast. That you can go around. You don't have much harvesting abilities, right? And then you scout the area, bring it back, and then your base can roll out with your transport ornithopters, your harvesters,
exactly,
sand crawlers.
Depending what your plan is for the day, which
people,
doesn't necessarily have to be PvP. There's actually a lot of other things,
Yeah,
that
exactly.
might bring you
I
to the
expect
deep
people
desert.
in guilds to be figuring things out and how they're going to work together to do these things. But there's roles here, right? Like again, we tried to really build this game with different roles for different people within guilds.
Exactly.
So the idea is, oh yeah, maybe I'm just the scout, and that's what I do because I hate, going into fights. But I go out, I bring back the information. Then people who like building bases are planning like what our logistics are going to be and what we're going to be doing this week in the deep desert. What do we need to harvest? What do we need for our crafting? Are there uniques that we're looking for? Are there specific uniques? I think one of the really important points about the deep desert is that like the unique schematics, the imperial permits, which maybe people saw, the purple ones, they're on a limited loot setup. So you don't get the same ones every week, and the layouts of the deep desert.
Торговля тоже.
Here we see the trading system. The sync chart's been traded.
And those schematics you can only make a certain amount of times.
Yeah. And now we're going to consume the sync chart, and then we're going to open our map and see that the sector has been cleared, the same sector that was sync charted. So this is kind of cool. You can create copies of this and pass it off to your guild. You can create copies and sell them on the exchange to other players as well.
Yes, and while now they're actually building a transport ornithopter, we can actually quickly talk about the Curious Storm in combination with the map, because we actually have a visual asset here that shows how they can look like on the map.
We can talk about the rotation. So this is like, so let's see that we're going to see 3 weeks of Coriolis Storm changes to the map. So this is week 1. And then we move to, and you can see that there's like one eco lab, a shipwreck, and a cave there, right? And a small base, and some spice blows that have been marked. And then to the next week, the layout has changed. Where things are is different. There's a control point now in the bottom left. There's an eco lab in a different place, and a shipwreck that's been uncovered.
And there will be different loot and
different loot in all of them. And then we go 1 more week again, and now you can see that this is a bit larger. There's another control point. It's a different house control point now. Different spaces on the map. A couple of eco labs this time, 4 or 5 caves, and the shipwreck. So you can sort of see how this changes and how this loot encourages exploration for people each week.
And that's 1 tile.
That's one section.
One of
81st.
One of 81.
Yeah.
But I will say this: it's a very big desert with a lot of space.
Yes.
So there's not all the tiles are that populated each week. So people aren't like, oh, there's not 15 eco labs in every square, right?
No.
Like it's a
more
big
sparse.
barren place. And this is also like important because if we want people to fight over things, we actually need to draw them to the same places to fight over specific things in PvP.
Yes. So for the ones who actually do want the PvP, they have a place to go where they know there's probably other players there as well.
Okay, so now we have a transport ornithopter. This is the largest flying vehicle that you can craft in the game. And this may be my favorite game mechanic because the transport ornithopter can pick things up. And I love it because it can pick up
самый большой,
almost anything that is a vehicle.
не вертолет, а летающий транспорт. И на нем можно будет другой транспорт переносить, что ли? Я понял.
But it's a pain, right, to get it up on the shield wall or to get it out here.
So a good tactic with the buggy though is to use it as storage and use the transport ornithopter to pick it up and carry it. Are we going to show an example of carrying? I guess we are.
Yes, we are, because what we're actually preparing for here is a spice harvesting mission.
So the team's going out to do some spice harvesting.
So we're actually gonna pick up a harvester.
So now we're coming out into what I call the real deep desert, right? This is actually what you think of when you think of Arrakis from the movies, right? So this is yeah, we just got the nice tutorial pop up talking about the deep desert.
Yes.
So this is the
timing.
Arrakis that we know from the films. So Hagar Basin is like and it's taking a lot of the information that we have from the books and about like the different biomes and things and making it into a truly sort of interesting PvE experience. But this is the true deep desert of Arrakis. This is a place where people are scared to go. This is where the Fremen live. We're passing outside the shield wall now. This is where the War of Assassins and the PvP is allowed to happen.
Spice blow.
And you can see a spice blow in the distance, which draws people from miles around to go there, right? And I do want to say, this section here, if you turn the camera right and left, you can see that we have the shield wall. This is 24 kilometers long. And you can't see people all the way along. So people who are like nervous about going into the deep desert because they're worried about, the PvP is, I think there's like an element from my end, a designed moment that we've talked about on this project quite often is like, you come to the edge of this vast ocean and you dip your toe in the water and you're a little bit scared of sharks, but you see something in the distance and you think, I can make it. I can get there and I can get back. And the first time it's scary. And you feel that tension, and the second time, and the third time, but you feel that tension, but you actually start doing it, right? And I get that people worry about toxic behaviors and ganking and so forth, but we tried to build a space where you can get away from people as well.
Correct, yeah. So I think that's really important to talk about is in Dune, you were given the tools to get away, right? Like if overwhelming amounts of people come after you, maybe you can't quite get away, but that's generally not going to happen. So a lot of it is more about, PvP is about controlling a point and like having to give up that point if you don't feel like fighting
over things instead of kicking down sandcastles.
Exactly.
Correct. So on the Landsrad here, this is kind of interesting, right? So you can see the Landsrad's in the state of like, if we claim this as the Atreides, we're going to win what we call a Sisselrad. And a Sisselrad means that we're going to get the voting power for the week. So a Sisselrad is when we can complete a row. So normally if you were Harkonnen and Atreides in this situation, you'd both be fighting over this particular control point because you really don't want the other one to win for the week. But normally, like it's kind of, you're always blocking each other and causing like the other team to have to, go back and focus on filling out a row or trying to fill out as many squares as possible. So we're trying to take the
House Hagel.
House Hagel owns this control point in the deep desert. We're in the deep desert as Atreides taking over this control point on their behalf. And you can see it's just this control point. It's a place that you have to defend in the deep desert. It'll draw other people, and it will earn you points over time. It's a classic control point in the deep desert. One other thing, just if you stop for a second here, one other thing I just wanted to point out, one of the feedbacks we had in beta was about team markers. You can see our new team marker system in the game here. It's deliberately only for the 4-person groups. I will not allow this to be in the game for guilds because I want, like, especially I know people talk about Zergs. I think when Zerg guilds and there's 40 people attacking each other on the screen, if everybody can see who's in their guild, it's very easy to target the people that you're trying to Zerg. But if it's just the group, then it's much more difficult for Zergs to actually not do friendly fire.
Yeah.
And there is full friendly fire on guilds.
I mean, they can do it if they work for it, right? They can make sure everyone has the same swatches and the same armor. So there is ways to do it, but
figure out
they have
what
to
you're
work.
dressed like and infiltrate.
Yeah.
Right?
Quickly switch to your
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's
we didn't want to take
no
away
artificial.
Yeah, it's been one of my. Let's say I will say this is one of those things where I have had to fight with a lot of developers on this project about this. There's a crashed ship down there, by the way. It's kind of cool that you could also go loot that. But it's like giving too much information for free to players actually limits our ability for people to have politics and intrigue.
Yeah.
Because if I can see your name over your head, I know who you are, right? But if I don't know who that is, and you dress in my clothing and you walk into my base and you follow me around, it's like I might just think that you're my friend from the guild, when in fact you're just trying to infiltrate. And we want to allow that possibility because that is Dune. At its core, that is how things work. There are plans within plans, there are groups within groups.
I remember that from early on, where your kind of law was information has to be earned.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That was a very early thing.
Can I just point out that we just
Very
crossed
cool.
a server border?
Yeah.
Our game has server meshing tech in the deep desert. and it's been a very painful technical thing to get working.
Yes.
But we just crossed a server border. You probably might not have even noticed any sort of hitching or anything because it's very seamless. And again, shout out to our technical team who've been working their butts off to get this in good shape. But we just crossed a server border from one server to another, and it's basically not visible, which is great.
Yeah, what we call like authority transfer.
Authority transfer between servers, yeah. So now we're picking up a random sandcrawler and bringing it out to the spice harvesting field. So, I mean, I love that. I love that mechanic. I think it's fantastic fun in the game, just picking things up.
The transport ornithopter is quite slow.
Yeah, it's very slow.
So it is dangerous to go out just in the transport ornithopter.
And you can, of course, sit in the harvester
Yes,
while being
you can,
transported, which is really fun too.
You can also,
Yes.
I think the transport ornithopter has like 5 seats as well. So
Yes,
you can bring a whole little group with you.
Or have them standing on top.
Kidnap other enemy harvesters as well, which is also super fun to do.
But we should talk about spice, because
Yes.
that's really ties the entire end game together, right? So all the tier, the tier 6 or the last like set of resources, right? Everything requires spice to craft it. So your end game gear, your end game tools, end game vehicles.
Everything end game requires spice for crafting, essentially. And also, we mentioned the Landsrad. The Landsrad has always the center square of the Landsrad requires spice to win. It's important. The Sandcrawler is like, it's not the full harvesters that you've seen in the films. Those are owned by the big houses. But as you can see here, this is like a little raid event. We just placed a thumper on the sand. We have a guy on a bike. He's riding around dropping thumpers.
You should also hear it actually on stream now. You hear
the thumpers are really important because sandworms roam the deep desert. They will be coming, and you need to be placing out thumpers to distract them away from that sandcrawler while it's harvesting spice. And you want to keep it on the spice as long as possible, just like in the book. You want to stay on the spice, earn as much profit as you possibly can. You can even see the trail that the sandcrawler is leaving in the spice as it sucks up spice into its little vacuum pack.
Yeah, so the sandworm stops being, it not stops, but it's less of a threat as you're going throughout Hauga Basin into the mid-game. But then at the end game, right, there's sandworms all over the place, and it becomes a threat again, especially when you're trying to get spice from the sands.
So so you saw the sandworm just took that thumper. Hopefully our intrepid thumper places have put out more of them.
They're totally well organized. They have like several people placing out thumpers. They have like the scouts here in the air that we see as well, which is really cool to see.
Looking for worms.
Plus our
Да, в одиночку трудно будет играть тогда.
danger that might occur.
And so as soon as the sandcrawler, like the person driving the sandcrawler knows that they're the target of the sandworm, they need to radio in and be like, get me off the sand, so that the transport ornithopter will pick them up. But at the moment, I think we're using the thumpers effectively as a team, and this is a part of it, right? Like, this is why the deep desert is very Dune. I don't think you have this experience in any other game, and the idea was to create this. So if you are here with your guild, there's something to do and it's fun and it's interesting, but then other players might show up as well, and that's where it becomes another step, right?
So you're saying it's not just reskin Conan Exiles? Is that what you're saying, Joel?
We could talk about what the word reskin means. We could talk about, like, you know, that some of the best games in the world are reskins of other games.
So you see here, though, that there is a lot of sandworms that are popping up here constantly, which is both fun to see, but also terrifying.
There is a limit to how much they will eat thumpers, right? They do eventually get annoyed.
Eventually they have enough.
I'm not that dumb, right? Like
they'll eat thumpers for a while.
I see what you're doing here.
They have a diverse palate.
Yes. But yeah, this is like
you also see nicely the scouts around to see, like, also potentially looking out for sandstorms coming in. Of course, they're kind of devastating in this particular worm signs. Enemies coming in as well.
Enemies coming in. So it's this is kind of the experience of like harvesting spice in the deep desert from a large spice blow. And there are smaller spice blows like that you can come to with a smaller guild.
We also have them in Hauga Basin, of course.
Yes. There's just a couple ones in Hauga. It's very limited because we wanted spice to be a rare resource that you need to go out here into the deep desert to get.
And talking about like concentration of people, like the spice blow you can see from really far away, right? 20 plus kilometers away. So you do need to bring some friends to be looking out for other people coming in.
Yep.
There's another thumper down there. So I know we've seen some comments from people that are like, well, you have to go into the deep desert to get like the highest type of gear and such.
That is not true. We have the exchange. We just showed that before, right? So you can be somebody that is making something that a person on the exchange would want, right? That goes into the deep desert to get spice or to get, you know, like some schematics. They can go to ARKNET or Hargo Village, post that, you know, and then you can trade it on the exchange. Or you can meet up in person and trade with the
Picking up the
PvP.
crawler.
I think there
Oh.
might have been some we can't hear it though, but there might have been some rumblings and some indication that
Yeah. We I think that they got worm sign
big
and they need to move.
threads
The
is
yeah, we
potentially
do have a
coming.
known bug in the game where the spice color disappears from the sand.
It's still there. Yeah.
But yeah, so it's happening. Oh,
There he is.
That's why they
and there's the
we can
grandfather
actually
worm.
hear that. Yeah.
that's shy.
It's great seeing the little sandworm.
Yeah, the
right
little
by the
tiny
big
one on
one.
the side. You can see the scale.
Little baby like getting into the action there.
This is the ring mouth worm.
That's the ring mouth, yeah.
And
The,
that's gonna swallow everything
that
that's
one's
in the
big, yeah,
middle.
yeah.
They're like just everything there is lost.
It
and
takes
it's
the
like
lot. But these guys managed to succeed and they can take their haul out of the deep desert today with them.
very well prepared.
They were well prepared.
Very well prepared. So as our crew here is now going back to actually maybe we can explore a little bit because we do actually have Imperial testing stations here as well, and I think we're actually somewhat close to one if I remember correctly. So we can maybe show that from above as well. Again, to just bring it in that there is a lot of content in the deep desert that is not just like flat out PvP, right? So we really want to
Correct. And this is our high-end PvE encounters happen in the deep desert. So the eco labs or ecological testing stations, they're actually tuned for 4 players. So it's the main PvE challenge would be out here where you're going to get those unique schematics that we were talking about earlier. But you need to scout, you need to find them, and then you need to perhaps fight over them.
And work as a team. I think these are tuned towards minimum 4 people.
Yeah.
Right,
we actually showed one in our combat stream.
Yeah, the second part,
2 streams
yeah.
ago.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
They're like kind of wave-based, kind of very different approach than the Imperial testing stations that we have in Haga Basin.
And they're different every week.
It's the entrance
Yes.
to Quality Station. And you know, like as the game continues, as we go through live and we continue to update and expand, there'll be more things that show up on the map, for example, Fremen Seaches and things like that, that people would expect to explore. So things will be uncovered. And as I mentioned, like the layouts for the deep desert, they're handcrafted. We have a cool system where we like build the layouts by hand and generate the spaces between them with the sand. So it's kind of like we fill in the gaps with the sand. But like we are building new layouts for this all the time, right? And then over time we'll incorporate more and more elements. So there'll be always something to do. That's the pillar of the game, infinite exploration, right? And that's one of the goals, is to create a space that's always explorable. And something else I'd like to say that I think is like important is we will add, like we have the DLCs and things coming for the game. We'll be adding things in the DLCs. But the deep desert will always remain something that we consider to be at the zenith of the power.
О, будут все-таки дополнительные территории, типа как дополнения продаваться.
In the game and we go to tier 7, then the deep desert will start to have tier 7 equipment and items and things in it as well. We will always try to keep it on par with anything else we add in terms of power, because the deep desert really is that continually explorable space.
The central point that keeps all of the things
Yeah,
together.
we'll continue to add like stuff, and there will be like in DLCs there'll be places where people can get access to gear that is currently in the deep desert, right? When we do that, we'll also increase the deep desert and make sure that there's more things. So that's kind of the long-term goal, is to continue updating the game and continue adding this stuff.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. To also ensure players about that. So while we actually have our team, or actually the spice harvesters, go back to on the way to the quartermaster to deploy, or like to kind of
Harvest the spice.
give him the spice, basically. Give him the spice for the launch rod thing.
Refine.
We do have an additional asset. We have actually a video from a stress test that we did with the beta last week on Friday, where we see a lot of things happening.
Shout out to the beta players.
Yes, thank you, beta players. Fantastic work on that side as well. So here, that's actually a glimpse at the stress test that we did. That's also deep desert. Lots of people together in the deep desert, lots of ornithopters, and it's just really
all
cool
in
to
line
have like
to
that.
get their ornithopters.
to like
We were
see
spawning.
that as well.
They were spawning thopters like crazy. someone's flamethrowing, throwing bombs. Players never behave when you put them in the same space.
If I remember correctly, that's actually Camille with the flamethrower. Not Camille, sorry, Ignacy. I mean, that was Ignacy.
The context of the stress test, by the way, was like we were testing people crossing the server boundaries with our mesh servers and fighting on them.
Ornithopter back there. Sorry, sorry, go ahead.
And fighting along the server boundaries just to see how the performance was. So you'll see people firing rockets, and yeah, it was a cool test. I think we got a lot of very useful data out of this.
Yeah.
And seeing how people were fighting together.
Also, shout out to our automation team because they every build, right? We have the deep desert, and they have basically they deploy our automation system called Legion, and it goes and it tests all of these things, right? So it's got hundreds of ornithopters going back and forth between all the zone boundaries.
Yep, there's a lot of testing that goes into a project like this. It's insane.
Yes.
And the more sandboxy you get, the more things can break, and that's
obviously
what makes it
the more
interesting.
freedom we also give to players,
Yeah,
the more
exactly.
things can break.
Exactly.
And like, I think I said that to you earlier as well. That like, story-driven games that are linear and you follow one story are one thing. We do have that aspect in the game as well, but I think what we at Funcom really love to do is we love to create worlds where players can write their own stories and can tell their own stories, right? I think that's such a different approach to game development.
It's one of the ways we describe Arrakis as a crisis generator, right? So it is spawning stories, and that's why like these tense locations like the deep desert are really important because it does spawn these memorable moments that you remember that you go experience with your friends or your guild. You make friends, you make enemies, and that's really important to like fully experience the politics and intrigue of Dune.
100%.
The power of multiplayer, right?
Exactly.
Yes, like I remember, like we had a lot of really cool. Before we go back to actually delivering the spice, we had actually a lot of really cool moments from streamers and players and YouTube content creators about the beta weekend or from the beta weekend. And I remember one moment, I call it the GTA moment, where one of the streamers, I think he was harvesting something or something.
Yeah.
Oh no, he was downed.
He was downed by an enemy.
He was downed but not out.
Yeah.
And then the other one comes in and just drives over the enemy that was like targeting him, and he couldn't stop laughing. It's like these little moments that make, that create those stories that are so fun to share as well and are unique to you then. And it's like, and that is, I think, where for me, that satisfaction of really creating those worlds comes.
Yeah, I think is one of the things like we get a bit of I mean it's fine, like we get feedback like, oh, jank, right? Like being able to stand on top of an ornithopter is janky. It is, but when they asked me if we should remove that, I said no. Surfing on an ornithopter is actually
That's very cool.
Why isn't that cool? Like why isn't that something we want? So like sometimes we make those choices as well. Like it's like this might look a little weird sometimes. But you know what? It's way more fun when you can do it.
Yes,
it's way more fun when you can do it.
The meta on beta might have been, surfing on ornithopters, shooting people with assault rifles.
A little bit of that might be fixed now. We fixed some of the assault rifle issues.
All right, so let's go back into delivering the spice now. Oh, actually, no, let's talk a little more. I actually wanted to ask you both a question. You actually have answered that recently in an interview, but that's not the reason I'm asking, because I plan to do it anyway. It's like, what is each of you's favorite thing in the game? I mean, you mentioned a few things that we saw, like the transport ornithopter and stuff, but I'm pretty sure there's other things that you're particularly proud of.
So, survival games for me, one of the best things they do is they make the world more interactable than other genres, right? So I think the team has done a great job of like using the harvesting system. Not only does the cut array like cut up the resources and get it, but you come across these like wrecked ornithopters. And every time I come across one and I'm cutting off the wings and getting the resources from it, it just feels great, right? Because it makes the game grounded. So I would say that whole entire system there is really unique with what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's I think I'm thinking about the one that I mentioned in the interview as well, probably. But like the Dew Reaper, and the way that you, because I like. Look, I made Conan. We made Conan, and Conan's a bit more stock standard in the survival sense, right? You're chopping down trees and you're harvesting rocks. And when it came to Dune, we had the design principle of like make your designs fit Dune, do not make Dune fit your designs. And it was like, what does harvesting water look like in Dune? And there's a line in the book where Duke Leto is looking out a window and the sun's rising and there's all these people out in the fields harvesting dew off the flowers, and you're like, that's how precious water is on this planet. And that's a moment that our game needs to have. And so it isn't just like the confluence, it's like, yeah, it's cool, this action of like sweeping the dew off the top of plants using this little Holtzman field that drains the water up into, and like, not only did the animation team and the effects team nail that, and the audio team got the, like, all of that works, but it's also like the back end, the time of day, checking when the dew harvest time is optimal, feeling like, and it's so satisfying to be out there like 10 minutes before the sun comes up and you're filling just liter johns full of water because you understood the game system and you understood the timing. All of those things come together to create an experience that I think for me it's just like, you can't have this experience in any game except Dune. And to me, that's the most precious thing, right? Like, I feel like it's so good when all those things come together. Like, as a developer, that's just the most rewarding stuff, right? And it feels good. And I don't really care if anyone else likes it because I love it so much. No, because I think it really nails it, right? Like, I can't speak more highly of how cool that works, right? And shout out to the team who worked on it and everybody who did their part.
No,
because
I get that.
Because games are made by teams, right?
To
That's the other
refine
thing.
spice.
Yes, absolutely. So we actually made it now to the quartermaster, and we are
So we're going to deliver
the
spice.
Yes.
Try to win the Landsrad. Okay, so these
Took a while
guys,
to get back.
ask you, so you, because you're sort of you're a minor house or a minor house under the umbrella of the Atreides, you deliver Landsrad bribes to the quartermasters of the Atreides, and they make sure they get where they're supposed to go. So now we're delivering for House Alexan, we're delivering spice, and the House Alexan are a part of the manufacturing unit, which is where they, and so we're delivering 500 spice melange, and then they're going to make sure that it reaches them, and then that will, in a moment, change the Landsrad. So you can see how you have an impact now. So Landsrad is there under the social tab. This board refreshes every so often, so it's been a few seconds since the last refresh. Now we should be able to see our borders refresh with a certain amount of spice. Oh, we didn't go to Alexan. You're on the wrong one. You need to go to Alexan. It's in the middle.
The middle.
Yes, and then we can see that we've delivered some spice and the goal amount has gone up. So that you can see that we've increased our goal amount with House Alexan there.
So we've worked towards.
Yes. So we haven't worked like once we hit 70,000 points, and we can do any of these activities to earn points, like the control point. We can
claim those.
we can
those
deliver
fields.
spice melange. But once we've done enough to earn that center square, then it'll flip to be Atreides and say that we've claimed it for the week.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's
great.
Nice.
So that was a little bit of a glimpse of what mid and end game can look like. Obviously, that totally depends on what you like to play and how you like to play. There's quite a lot of options. We showed you a few of them, an approach of what can be done.
We're also jamming like dozens of hours of gameplay into like a very quick presentation.
Yes, 100%. Like, this is very like, preparation is everything, which is of course true for the game specifically as well. But before we dive into the Q&A, we are gonna take a quick look at the Mentat.
So then, you're not quite dead.
Great plot.
Developed out of the need to replace thinking machines, the Mentats, trained on the principles of philosopher Gilbertus Albans, became one of the most important people in the Imperium. Able to calculate immense amounts of data and devise complex strategies, they are the most advanced tacticians on the battlefield. Combined with advanced assassination and combat technology, you will be able to think many steps ahead of your enemies. With a significantly higher cognition, as a Mentat, you can calculate trajectories and weapon handling to find weak points in an opponent's defense, or even guide the calculations of an external sentinel turret to assist you with extra firepower. Focusing on strategic control over raw strength, A mentat is an expert in assassination technology, using poison capsules to trap enemies in a cloud of death. Or when out of sight, send in a hunter-seeker before the enemy has even noticed your presence. For a tactical advantage, the mentats have devised further development of Imperial technology, such as the shield wall for extra protection. And to fool simple-minded enemies, a projection of yourself will confuse and scatter their focus. Throughout the dunes of Arrakis, any school can be trained and improved by masters, increasing your mental capacity and further advancing your tactical technology will let you hold the strategic advantage in any situation. But to reach the highest tactical operation, adopting other schools of thought will increase your mental complexity, opening up further possibilities. Focus your mind and calculate each step forward to find the optimal probability for your survival on Arrakis.
All right, and we are back for our Q&A. So our wizards behind the screens and behind the cameras are going to throw up questions that have been collected. They're ready now. I was just being told, fantastic.
Before anybody asks any questions, though, I just want to make a reveal of my own.
Nice.
Special toe shoes today for everybody's.
They look really cool, though.
They are cool.
But it also looks a bit like Hobbit feet, to be fair. Like, at least close up, Chad. So it's good you have a little bit of a... it's good you don't have
Not
close-ups.
for all the money in the world.
From what I understand, they're very healthy, though. They're very better for you than actual normal shoes, so...
Yep.
That's what they say.
That's what they say.
I started wearing them 10 years ago and I'm still
Still
fat,
not
so I don't know. Maybe
Super
they're,
healthy.
Maybe they're not working out.
Well, your feet are very healthy.
My
Let's go
feet
there.
are massively
Yeah.
healthy.
Super
Sorry,
healthy.
all right. Enough distraction. I apologize.
No, you don't have to.
The toe reveal was
You
important
don't have
to me.
to. We wouldn't want you any other way, Joel. All right. Rui's probably going to kill me now.
Yeah.
All right.
We want him every other way.
Every other way. No. It's all good. Like, it's also, you guys make a really nice, you complement each other really well.
I've got pants. He doesn't have pants.
Exactly. He has toe shoes. You actually wear socks as well. So it's just like, it's a whole balance thing. It's
Yes.
Yeah.
all
Nice.
right. All right. While we still wait on the questions, they're still collecting some of them.
Nobody has
give
any
them a little
questions.
bit of maybe no one has
We've
questions.
answered every possible question people could have is fully
I
answered.
wish. Like that's kind of both the blessings and the blessing and the challenge of Dune Awakening. I think it's just it has so many aspects of different games. That we really tried to put together and have people enjoy and understand.
Were you there when I was like presenting to the press about the game and I was calling Funcom morons for taking
Yes, of course I was there.
Yeah.
I was
was
expecting
fun.
headlines.
We
We didn't
take
get
a
a
lot of
single
risks.
headlines.
Yes.
We didn't get a single headlines like that.
Yeah.
Funcoms are morons.
Well,
Chief Creative Director says.
Well, we are like we keep trying to, like it's one of the things that I love about working here. Is like they let me do crazy stuff.
Yeah.
They let me try and do weird shit. Like
mean-
it's like you could work somewhere where you're doing the same game every year. Speaking of reskins, like and you're making the exact same thing and you're within this box and it's like and like I do like that we're allowed to push beyond those things,
I
right? And
agree.
try harder to do something different. And yeah, it comes with a little bit of jank, but man, I don't know. I feel like it's like the
I agree, though. I think one thing you can't say about us is that we like it easy.
no, exactly.
like-
We're morons. We make it hard for ourselves every time.
It's what we were talking about at the beginning, right? We make unique games, right? We take risks, and sometimes it means that we make divisive decisions. But I think that's what was great about the beta, right? It's like people got to see what the true experience was. Oh, and here is
Exactly. So we're ready actually for the question. So is that Lopil 125? Is the exchange global or per server?
It is per world. So the world is what we call a container of all the Haga Basin that you will play and interact with, right? So there are hundreds of worlds, so it is not global.
Yeah, it is one deep desert per world, 2 social hubs per world, and and then many Haga basins per world, and that is what we call a world. And yeah, as Scott says, at launch there are hundreds of worlds to choose from, right? And within each world, there's many Haga basins to choose from.
Right.
Yep.
All right. And Speak asks, are the overland map dungeons instanced per player? Can you do them as a group, or are they open like the social hubs?
The answer is that they are not instanced for a group. They are per player, and they are not open like the social hubs.
They are instanced, though.
Yes, they are
to
instanced.
a limit.
To a limit.
Several people in the same world can be doing the same, like
Yeah,
the
single.
water fat
Yeah.
mansion, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Which are kind of our only instant content in that way,
Yes.
in that
Yes.
sense.
Yep. Correct.
Charlie Foxtrot TV asks, how do the different circuits work?
Oh, they basically isolate resources so that they can only be used if they're on that circuit. And then you can set a circuit for the, it's a little bit hard in the UI, but you can set like a machine's input and output circuit
Yes.
that way. And so that's kind of
Yeah.
the extent with it.
Like draw from this storage, deliver to this storage when you're finished, right? Like and that's
Basically,
how
yeah.
Or this group of
Yeah,
connected
and
items.
yeah, exactly. And you can set a certain number of storages per circuit, and so yeah. So yes, that's basically it.
Kriegsdrachen asks, how will they ensure balance between Harkonnen and Atreides?
There are systems. I think I talked about this in that other.
You
when I got
you
that
just
question.
mentioned as well as
I
like
hedged
we
it last time.
have, but
We
you
have
didn't
some
want to
systems,
spoil
but I'm
it,
not going
which
to
we
talk too
shouldn't.
much about.
Exactly, exactly.
And then when we introduce a third faction, which we are planning to, it will also have a role in that balance. But that's basically what I can say right now. But ensure is very hard. Like it's very hard to like be 100% certain because, you know, when you give players choice, they choose. And so you can't guarantee that it's going to be 100%, not 100% people on Atreides on a world. But I think we have pretty good systems in place to make sure that at least feels like it balances itself out pretty well.
Yes, and the deep desert is not Atreides versus Harkonnen.
Yes.
It is every
Yes.
person for themselves, right? So even if Harkonnen are kind of dominating a server or they're 60-40, they're going to be fighting themselves in the
Yes.
deep desert as well.
And that's actually something I forgot to mention when we were talking about the Landsrad. Like the Landsrad, you can see the different within
top
the
guilds.
factions who the top guilds are and who contributed the most. Because a part of the Dune thing is that like it isn't that like everybody in Atreides is a monolith. It's actually like people want the Duke's attention, so they want to be further up. And the same with the Harkonnen, right? Like I want the Baron to witness me, so I'm trying to get to the top of the list of guilds. So there should be inter-guild competition even within the factions. So they overall are working towards the common goal of the Landsrad, but they're trying to beat each other to be the best in the Landsrad. So they have the most voting power, they get the rewards, etc.
Yeah, especially also because like one Atreides guild might be focused on PvP, the other one might be super opposed to PvP.
Yep.
So they definitely don't want the PvP guild to like get, we want full PvP. So
Yes.
they will, work against them and like,
Yes.
we want to be top because we want to have more say in which decree we're actually going to have next week.
Yeah, like exactly.
So-
a crafting guild's going to want the crafting decrees.
Exactly,
And they're
yes.
not going to want the PvP full loot decree, right? So
Exactly,
there's going to be
yes.
that kind of competition even within the factions.
Yes, exactly.
So, yep, good question.
Cypher asks, can our bases get raided?
So not in Haga Basin. They will be safe in Haga Basin. In the deep deserts, it's a bit different.
Yeah, in the PvE section of the Deep Desert, no.
Yeah.
But in the PvP section of the Deep Desert, there is a mechanism by which bases have a vulnerability window where they can be raided. It is a very short vulnerability window, and again, I would point to the lore of the Dune universe. So I'm sorry for everybody who hasn't read the books and doesn't know a way in which shields can go down for a brief period of time. But it is worth looking into because then you'll understand exactly how the mechanics can work. And I know I'm being needlessly cryptic, but I'm sure there's people spamming in the chat about it already.
Let them figure it out. Altman Alchemist, if I don't take the mission to talk with House Atreides or Harkonnen, will I be content locked as far as progressing, sorry,
No, that's
the
fine.
main story and the ability to craft?
No.
Yeah, no. The story, I mean, while it involves House Atreides and the Harkonnen, it is not about that. It's about you in your role on Dune.
It's your quest to find the Fremen and wake the
Exactly.
sleeper, right?
Yeah.
So the main story follows that. What we were talking about and what we were showing earlier with the different faction unlocks, like in terms of the visuals and those things, you're locked out of if you don't want to join a faction.
But those
You
are
can't get,
pure vanity.
but they're pure vanity, right?
No mechanics.
But yeah, you can't. But one thing you cannot join the Landsrad unless you have aligned yourself with a faction. Your guild must be aligned with a faction to participate in the Landsrad. That is the one hard requirement that I think faction alignment has in the game. That's it. Otherwise, yeah, you can do all the content without joining Atreides or Harkonnen.
I also think when it comes to progressing, in the beta, during the beta weekend, you were still very much in the tutorialization part of the game,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So I know that some players were like, whoa, this is very linear and things. But the thing is, things open up quite more once you're past that tutorialization section as well. So you won't be actually locked progressing when it comes to crafting or where you spend your points.
Yeah, and in the opening,
Intel points specifically.
in the opening of the game, after character creation, you actually get a choice as to whether you want to play with an unlocked tech tree or a locked tech tree. The reason we put that there is so that people who are advanced survival players or people who've played Dune before can just go, okay, I want the unlocked tech tree, I know what I'm doing. But I recommend, and we recommend, that the locked tech tree is for people who are playing the game for the first time, and really, like, because there are so many, we've been talking about it a lot today, there are so many mechanics that are just kind of Dune mechanics that we want people to learn, and we need to teach them. And it's going to be hard for you to know what to do. Like, you don't know about dew reaping and times of day when you should be out harvesting dew unless you follow the tutorials that we put in place for that, right? So it's just that.
Or that you need to go to shipwrecks to craft better weapons.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Kupa is asking, is there a level cap
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe we're at 200
Yeah.
currently?
currently.
But you can respec.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's, I believe it's on a 48-hour cycle. So even if you cap out and you play something and you decide you don't like it, you can switch to something else.
And there's a point where you run out of, like, you stop getting unlock points for your tech tree, intel points. And then we have a mechanic in the game for you to go around and unlock more intel points by going to bases in the world, like enemy bases and outposts. So there's a level cap that puts a stop to some of those progression things, and then the next step from there is for you to go and explore more and enjoy the game more.
Because we do want you to make some choices, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Also, like, I mean, there's different level and skill point caps, right? Because you have a character level, you have skill points, and you have intel points. So
Yes.
there's like 3 different
Yes.
caps that you
Yeah,
particularly
exactly.
hit. K69N is asking, is it possible to lose all your gear in PvP?
So not in PvP in the base level. In the deep desert, you lose resources that you're carrying, Solari and Spice, and you take durability damage to some of your gear. Right, that's what happens every time you die, PvE or PvP. But if there's a specific decree from the Landsrad which enables full loot PvP in the deep desert for 1 week, then that's the only time in the game where you can lose all your gear in PvP. That's it.
Or if you're fighting in the sand and a sandworm comes and eats you.
Yeah, sure.
If you
I
try
guess
to
you
fight
can
the
lose all your gear in
sandworm,
PvP, but
yeah.
we count is the sandworm PvP really?
You know.
It's more like PvE, but yes, 100%.
Wolfie 1974, are we going to be able to get blueprints that devs made of their bases?
Oh, the Tor Eagle presents.
Exactly, as Tor Eagle presents. That's actually very
That's a
cool. I
great
love
idea.
that idea. That's actually a very
maybe
cool
we can
idea.
fill up some vendors post-launch with some of our
I was
pre-mades. Maybe,
yes,
we'll
I
see.
was just about to say I don't think players should actually pay for them per se, but we should, or maybe they need to. I don't know.
You don't want copies of my
I mean,
bases.
you shouldn't. No, actually, let me rephrase that. We shouldn't have a dev sell those items in game, but we can sell it via NPC.
Sure, yeah,
That's what
yeah.
I meant, right?
Maybe
Like,
we can put a vendor or something
that'd
like
be
that.
cool. Yeah, like you
Yeah,
mentioned.
maybe a vendor in the world can sell some blueprints.
You see, like Tor Eagle bases
Tor Eagle's the
everywhere.
guy. Tor Eagle's the builder among us. Mine would just be no one
Mine
wants,
are boxes.
No one wants to see
Yeah.
my. I'm the guy who tests T2P
New dog houses.
TTP every time.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure we're gonna have players who make fantastic buildings. Okay, Quintinovich is asking, will GeForce now be in Dune Awakening?
I believe so.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's
I have no idea.
discussions going on.
There's
at least.
discussions. I can't remember what the last is, but people are looking at it. Yeah.
I don't have Slack open, otherwise you could check.
GeForce
Someone
Now
is
is
like
the
hammering
streaming
messages
service, right?
to me
Yeah.
online.
So
It's like,
the question, I guess, would be, will Dune Awakening be on GeForce Now
yes,
for streaming?
yes,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what
yeah,
I
yep.
interpreted.
I don't
as
know
well.
the answer. I'm sorry, but Scott.
Yeah, I don't think I have an official answer, but I believe so. But yeah.
Helping Hans, how do you balance the council wins? If one side gets unique weapons, won't that side have a better chance to win the next vote down the line?
Not necessarily, because the tasks for the Landsrat are pulled from, like, so there's 25 tasks per week, and there's a pool of like 400 tasks that can potentially show up. So you, first of all, don't necessarily know what's going to be there. Unique weapons doesn't actually influence everything. Some of the tasks are kill tasks. You don't know which tasks are going to be revealed first. You also have to bribe Landsrat envoys with spice to reveal tasks. And if your faction does it before the other faction, you'll see, okay, we need to do this. So you might just get ahead because you had more spice or whatever. It's not going to come down to unique weapons. Absolutely not. That's not going to be the thing that means that one side gets a sudden landslide kind of advantage. Yeah. So I think that's the best way to answer that, I think, from my perspective.
I think that's a great answer too. And I think it just goes again into people are a little bit too afraid that everything is about PvP and fighting end game, and that's absolutely not the case.
Yeah.
And hopefully we explained that a little bit today as well for people to feel a bit more like relaxed about that, or disappointed, depending. Dr. Evil Eye, is there any content or materials that are hidden behind PvP, meaning that the only way to obtain that item gear material is to risk losing to large guilds?
I wouldn't say hidden, but yeah. Like you can. The Deep Desert, which we just explained, is a place where tier 6 gear is, like items and materials for crafting those things. You need to go there to get those things. You can buy them off the exchange. You can trade for them with other people. But yes, you have to go to that place in order to get those things. And there is a risk of people attacking you when you're in that place. We tried to explain that this is a very large place. It's not going to be possible for a guild to cover the entire space. It's just not going to be possible.
Yeah. I think guild limit's 32.
The guild limit is 32 people.
Yeah. So one per kilometer, maybe, if they stretch across.
Yeah, they'd have to stretch all the way across. And even then, I think there's all kinds of tactics and ways to draw them off. And I don't think it's going to be a problem.
There are potentially hundreds and hundreds of people that can be in the Deep Desert,
Yes.
right? So one guild would be outnumbered by 100 people.
Again, if you want to rat, you can rat.
Yeah,
like there's options, right?
And also, like the tier 6 gear isn't required for the story or for anything that's having to do with like a basin, right? It's sort of just the Deep Desert loop.
But we can't tell people that they can't get to the top number if number go up, because they really people always want that. So so it's
there are other ways to get it.
Even though it's not required, you I know people are going to want it.
I feel like it makes sense though, because those people who really care about the highest level tier are probably the PvPers, and they want to be in the Deep Desert in the first place. So I feel like it's kind of a natural balance there too.
Hopefully we also have, like, I think there's this weird, I speak to a lot of people in our closed beta and our Discord, right? And I see that, like, there's people who kind of assume that everybody who is a guild in PvP is going to be this toxic, sweaty kind of, and I think it's going to be the opposite. I think we're going to have the good guy guilds who are out there actually protecting people and like helping people out. I've seen it in the beta already. People, I got lost in the desert, help, and people would come and help them, give them rides home, like give them more gear. I've seen people in the beta like just give other people an ornithopter when they lost one because of a bug that was in the game from our end. They're like, "Oh, do you want an ornithopter? I have a spare one." Right? That's it's great to see, and I think that people worry too much about toxicity. Hopefully, we'll keep track of it, of course, but it should be fine.
And you have one player for the entire world, right?
Yeah.
So and you are your name, right? So you will have some sort of reputation.
Yeah, exactly. There's that as well.
Yeah, as a callback to more old school MMOs that I grew up with, like EverQuest and all those. But anyway, so we have 2 more questions. Fort Team is asking, do you need a sync chart for each person in your guild?
Yes. You need to create a sync chart for every person who's going to want to reveal those things that you've got in your sync chart.
They're single-use items.
Yeah, they're single-use items, consumables, once you've created them.
And last questions. Neo Valkyrion, can transport ornithopters carry other ornithopters?
Yes, they can.
They can indeed.
They can indeed. I was playing it earlier. I was flying around carrying a medium ornithopter with my
They can pick up pretty much anything.
Yeah.
And again, they have
anything
passengers
vehicular.
too.
Yes, vehicular. Can't pick up people.
No.
Unless they're
Inside.
They're sitting inside a vehicle. All right. All right, so that was it with the questions for today, and also for our last developer stream before Head Start and the official release. I'm like still like how. Okay, so
It's like 7 days,
how
8
do
days.
how do you boys feel, gents?
Me
How do you
first.
feel?
Go, Scott.
Pretty good, right?
Pretty good?
So beta went really well from
Yeah.
our perspective. The tech was stable, you know, and that's what we're always worried about because we knew the game was pretty good, or we thought the game was
We
really
think
good,
so,
right?
yeah.
And all the tests we had run showed that, but we were a little fearful, you know, that tech would hold, and it went really, really well with the closed-ish beta, right? The weekend, where, you know, the server crash rate was low, the client crash rate was within our acceptable tolerance, and we're fixing most of the issues that we found. So cautiously optimistic, right? Incredibly excited to show the entire game, and so yeah.
See reactions.
But the last week is always yeah.
It's like it's 5 years of your life, right? And it's like I think that's the thing that I think is like what I'm not sure people understand is like when you've been living and breathing this kind of thing for 5 years, and then like you see the game industry is volatile, things don't go well for people. We have a team of, you know, that I love to work with. We have a team of great people that we've built over the last years, and it's like it isn't about like success in the sense of like, you know, oh, I just want to say that like, it is a game that I think is great, right? And I've played it and I kind of know that it has a lot going on, right? And I think it works well. And from the beta, we got some confirmation of that.
True. Ay.
To be together,
Yeah.
making games for a long time, right? So for me, this is like I'm nervous about that, right? Like it's the gaming industry is not a safe place anymore, right? It's not easy to guess what's going to be successful. I mean, I'm watching things and like, you know, you see things that are fantastic from small teams going great, like, you know, and there's been some fantastic games this year and games that you wouldn't have predicted coming out of nowhere, like Schedule 1 is a great one, but also like Claire Obscura, I'd heard of it, but I hadn't heard of it until really it blew up. And so you see these games, these huge successes. So I think it's like, you don't want to have the arrogance to think that you could be among that, but you hope. And that's kind of where I'm at least. I'm hoping we strike a vibe. I'm hoping that all the decisions that we made, and there's 10,000 decisions on a gaming project, right? There's 10,000 decisions, and every one of them is about moving towards a goal, right? Towards a vision, a creative vision, a vision of a universe, a vision that a guy created in 1963 when he wrote a book, right? And that's, I don't know, like I'm extremely nervous, but that's what we're trying to get to, right? And that's, I hope what people feel when they play the game is, yeah, okay, you nailed it, right? Like that's what we want.
And I feel like we've made an amazing Dune game, right? And it's the first where you're walking right on Arrakis. You're experiencing Paul's journey.
We're skipping 2001's Frank Herbert's Dune,
sure. But for me, right, in a modern sense anyway. So it's and we have a story we want to tell. People saw a really short glimpse of it in the beta, but there's so much more going through the rest of Act 1 and Act 2, right? Playing through that. And there's this long story that we want to tell over the, you know, Lex, you said 10 years, right, on the thing, so I'm seeing that. So we have a long story. We want to continue releasing updates, you know, every 3-4 months with additions to that story, in addition to the DLCs that we're going to come out. So when you buy the game, you're getting everything here right now, plus all the story content that we'll continue to release over the next years. So yeah, we're excited. It's a lot of pressure, but yeah, we'll do fine.
There's no guarantees in love and war, but you know what? I'll say this for the record. I'm really proud of our team and what they've done. And like, no matter what happens, all of them can hold their heads up high because they have worked really hard to bring this to fruition.
Absolutely. Shout out to our teams, the many teams that work on this game with all different departments.
Every department.
And absolutely, it's a beast of a game. I think we can say that.
Yeah.
And I'm actually getting goosebumps now. I'm sorry. I'm actually getting goosebumps. I'm sorry. Such a yeah, anyway. But I think that's a wonderful note to end this, again, last developer stream.
Yeah. Yep.
On for before Head Start and release. One thing we can actually say is that you will be able to upgrade your editions on the 10th of January. So there will be an option.
10th of June, I
10th
think.
of, sorry, June. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That wonderful ending. I just completely read that.
That's fine.
Oh well.
Congratulations.
Anyway, pro here, right? Yes, so 10th of June, when the game goes into full release, you will be able to upgrade your editions. Should you want to do that, there will be options on Steam. And we'll be ending. Thank you so much again, Scott and Joel, for being here during out of your busy schedules. So we really appreciate it, talking to us. And we'll have a last trailer. And with that, I thank everyone for watching and joining us today. And hopefully you'll enjoy what's coming your way.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. See you on Thursday.
Yeah. Cheers.
So then, you're not quite dead.
Приручать можно будет? Мышей.
And the currents of intrigue run deeply. You will go to Arrakis as our agent. You have one task. Find the Fremen. Wake the sleeper.
You were sighted fleeing the scene of a terrible crash. Who are you?
You've heard the expression, the spice must flow. I am the man who ensures that it continues to do so.
I dreamed of you. Burst in fire. Twin comets in the sky. The seer of lies. I am terrified of what happens when you awaken.
We've all lost our way. You can complete the mission.
Every person carries their past with them. Who are you?
Ну, я не знаю. Игра все равно крутая, но, блин, несколько вещей мне вообще не понравились. Если, ну, может, я ослушался, но, насколько я понимаю, там, во-первых, будут сервера по принципу, как этот, блин, как эта игра называлась? Атлас. Типа один огромный, ну, типа как один огромный мир, он будет соединен как из кусков. Будет несколько серверов вместе соединены. И насколько я понимаю, один такой мир будет состоять из 91 сервера. Это значит то, что... Я говорю, это, блин, только мои догадки. Но, блин, это получается, что свои сервера игроки создавать, скорее всего, не смогут. Или смогут, ну, в Атласе же тоже создавали. Ну, блин, получается, чтобы более-менее нормальный сервер сделать, там, ну, как минимум надо 2 или 4 сервера вместе соединять, а это уже, ну, довольно большие расходы получаются. Потому что один сервер, маленький такой квадратик, если сделать, ну, там тупо заниматься нечем будет. Разве что в ПВЕ там ковыряться каждый день. И второе, что мне не понравилось, то что они почему-то сравнили с Растом. Вот в Расте такое есть, и нам вот надо было сделать то, что каждую неделю будет вайп. Я надеюсь, что если он будет, то он будет только, блин, на ПВП, потому что, блин, если на ПВЕ серверах человек после работы заходит там на полчасика или на часик поиграть, и он там медленно там разбирается в механиках, там начинает что-то строить, и фига неделя кончается, и вайп, и начинает все сначала. Ну, блин, мне кажется, это как-то туповато. Блин, надеюсь все-таки, что это не везде будет и не на всех серверах, что все-таки... Блин, главное, они сравнивают с Растом. У Раста маленькая микроскопическая карта. Там, да, там если человек заходит на ПВП, там уже через 3 дня делать нечего на этой микроскопической карте. Там все уже исследовано. А здесь, если мир, блин, да, из 91 этого квадрата, и, ну, она офигеть, какая огромная эта карта. Там мне как ПВЕ игроку, который там по чуть-чуть на расслабоне играет, мне, чтобы этот весь мир посмотреть, мне как минимум 2-3 месяца надо. Они собираются вайп делать, блин, каждую неделю. Это, ну, не знаю, блин, какой-то звездец. В таком случае, и слава богу, что на консолях выходит попозже эта игра, тогда посмотрю какие-то стримы тех стримеров, которые на ПК будут играть. Если это реально так будет, то я начну думать, покупать ее вообще или нет. Потому что, блин, ну, вайпы каждую неделю. Не, ну механика там прикольная, да, что после каждого вайпа, типа в том мире, ну, как буря проходит через всю карту, все уничтожает, и рельеф карты меняется, там обнажаются какие-то новые пещеры с новым лутом, там какие-то, ну, эм, как сказать, ну, брошенные там какие-то эти все летающие аппараты, там, техника и так далее. В принципе, ну, круто, интересно придумано, ну, блин, ну, я не знаю, у кого, особенно в ПВЕ, хватит терпения каждую неделю заново строиться. Мне кажется, это тупо. Особенно если охота что-то красивое построить, да, это там неделю займет времени, во-первых, ну, так как это будут официальные сервера, рейты будут X1, это 100%. И ПВЕшерам, которые только по выходным играть будут, там, или по вечерам, им, чтобы более-менее нормальную базу построить, там уже неделю только, блин, ресы собирать надо будет. Блин, только построил дом, и тебя сразу нахрен буря сносит все. Блин, я надеюсь, я ошибаюсь, но мне так послышалось. Вот. У меня с этим английским тоже так, что я пока в мыслях разбираю предыдущее предложение, что там имелось в виду, они уже 2 новых предложения говорят, и иногда мне в кашу это все входит. Особенно если очень много каких-то таких названий, которые я сижу и думаю, блин, это слово что-то значит или это просто название какое-то выдуманное. Вот. И ну, поживем, увидим. Как-никак уже скоро. Так, те, кто делали предзаказ на ПК, они уже 10 числа получат. Э, ну и я надеюсь, что когда релизнится на ПК, тогда и будет уже известно число, когда он будет на консолях. Потому что вот на консолях уже э, выложили информацию об этой игре, ну, написано, что пока недоступно. И числа тоже нету. По крайней мере, не было. Да, нету. Да, ну, блин, ну, вот это нафига они сравнивают себя, блин, с Растом? Какой Раст? Это, блин, я полная, если так. Они, блин, я бы вместо них вот там, когда вопросы задавали от зрителей, там один вопрос был, будут ли доступны где-нибудь для скачивания рецепт, ну, типа эти блюпринты, баз, которые сделали сами разработчики. Вот, и мне сразу пришла такая идея в голову, что они бы, блин, могли бы а, круто сделать такую систему, что, например, сами игроки могли бы на этой игре зарабатывать деньги. Допустим, вот, ну, ты создаешь какую-то базу красивую, делаешь блюпринт и выкладываешь во встроенный магазин. И другие игроки, кому понравилось, они за маленький какой-то донат могли бы, вот, ну, например, купить себе тоже такой блюпринт. Ну, там, конечно, надо было бы какую-то встроенную систему сделать, то, что купленные блюпринты нельзя
Доброго
перепродавать.
времени суток.
Привет, Аделина. Так, и да, вот таким способом можно было бы точно. Игроки бы могли, во-первых, подзаработать, и разработчики тоже могли бы как дополнение. Да, и насчет дополнений тоже там, вот я особо не понял, это будет как дополнительный мир к этому же самому, или это вообще будет как отдельный сервер? Потому что, ну, насколько я
Что с
понял...
микрофоном? Совсем плохо.
Плохо, да? Ну да, к сожалению, у меня сегодня с другого микрофона, так как... Так, подожди. Ну а с этим микрофоном лучше? Ну вот сейчас он заработал, гадина такой. Да, сейчас он заработал.
Да.
В начале стрима я со своим обычным стримерским микрофоном хотел стрим запускать, а у меня начал гудеть и ни за что не хотел нормально работать. Я его там 3 раза
Тут
перетыкал.
совсем плохо.
Да, это от наушников микрофон был. Вот. И полстрима я пытался настроить, ничего не работало. Плюнул, начал с наушников разговаривать. А сейчас под конец стрима уже начал нормально работать. Пиздец. Короче, надо будет заказывать другой микрофон. Ну а ты собираешься эту игру покупать? Интересно она тебе?
Few survive this world. But those who do.
Ну я как минимум уже 2 маленьких существ увидел в этой игре.
Выглядит интересно, но скорее всего нет.
Я как будто хочу ее, ну блин, сегодня там разрабы наговорили такие вещи, что я уже начал сомневаться. Они хотят сделать такую систему, как в Расте, что каждую неделю карта будет удаляться и заново надо будет все делать. Вот представь, ты построила красивый огромный дом себе, базу, набрала себе ресов там за неделю, а потом, блин, просыпаешься, у тебя базы нету. Не потому что тебя зарейдили, а потому что карта вайпнулась.
В Арке сейчас и без того много контента, вот-вот будет, так что на новую
Ну
игру
да,
сил нет.
да. А вообще, получается, вот 2-го сейчас будет в Арке обновление
Провайд
крупное.
— это копия Once Human.
Там тоже так, да? Просто сами разработчики сравнили себя с Растом. Подожди, а я, ну, смотрю одного латвийского стримера, который вот играет
Там система
on
вайпов
Human.
серверов.
И вот сколько он заходит, я время от времени захожу смотреть, что он там делает, и сколько я захожу на его стримы, у него все время один и тот же дом. Может, там все-таки не на всех серверах эти вайпы тогда? Ясно. Ну, выйдет, тогда уже посмотрим, что там будет. Сейчас, да, 2 тогда в Арке будет это крупное обновление, там плюс еще на карте Астреос будет этот э, новый, новый биом. Банд Кити, огромное спасибо за подписку на Твиче.
Если они себя с Once Human сравнят, то никто покупать не станет, ибо люди проще в бесплатную такую же игру уйти.
Не, они с этой не сравнивают. Они почему-то сравнили себя с Растом. Сказали, ну вот в Расте же есть вайпы каждую неделю. Ну, там тупо сравнивать, потому что, во-первых, в Расте очень маленькие карты.
Там вайп с большим периодом, 3 или более месяцев.
Блин, а в Расте каждую, ну, в Расте, и то в Расте есть разные сервера. Есть где неделю, каждую неделю вайпы, есть где каждый месяц вайпы. А здесь они сказали именно каждую неделю. Если у них такой огромный мир и каждую неделю будет вайп, я думаю, там на хайпе каких 2-3 недели поиграют так. Ну, будут, конечно, фанаты, которые там будут каждую неделю заново строиться. Ну, блин, не знаю. Кажется, это как-то тупо. Если бы еще было вот как в Арке, что любой игрок может сделать сервер и тогда свои правила какие-то устанавливать. Ну, тогда да, если вот так жить только на официальных серверах, насколько я понял, одиночной игры там не будет. Да хрен его знает, не знаю, блин. Вообще фигня полная будет, если так.
Насколько знаю, в Once Human либо вот-вот, либо уже вышел бессмертный серф, где нет вайпов.
Да я жду, когда они наконец-то на консоли выйдут, блин. Вот, между прочим, от этих разработчиков, которые, блин, как эту игру? Genshin Impact делали. Вот от них скоро на консоли еще вот эта игра выйдет. Она на телефоне, мне кажется, тоже есть. И на ПК. А на Xbox ее еще не было. И вот скоро тоже добавят.
Совсем без вайпов скучно будет.
Ну, может быть. Не, ну, слушай. Ну, блин, ну не каждую неделю же. Особенно, ну вот представь, ты работаешь, да, ты можешь там по вечерам там по 1 часику поиграть. И по выходным там субботу, воскресенье. И вот это как особенно новая игра, пока ты... Это мы в арке заходим, там уже с закрытыми глазами, знаешь, куда идти, что делать, зачем, какие тебе ресурсы надо, ты можешь быстренько распланировать все и все это собрать. А здесь ты будешь разбираться в механиках, какие где ресурсы. Там, например, вот эти я уже который раз обращаю внимание, то, что вот то же самое, что и в Конане, у них эти рисунки
Но если,
энграмм,
например, как в Арке, будут сервера и без вайпов.
ну, надеюсь. Вот, и эти иконки, они, блин, сложно понять. И вот как, ну, окей, со временем, когда ты в этой игре будешь дни проводить, ты, конечно, уже на автомате будешь понимать, вот это там, например, вот это, а вот это там, например, там, ну, символ там какого-то оружия или еще чего-нибудь, да. А на данном этапе, в начале, ты пока разберешься, где что, как оно выглядит и где это скрафтить и так далее, а потом, ну, если это официальные сервера, я уже говорил, там будет рейты X1, не будет никаких там X3 или X5 или X100, как и на, на неофициальных серверах. Будет X1. И вот если посмотреть, какие там возможности, какие красивые огромные базы все строят, на X1 ты будешь только 2 недели ну ладно, неделю может собирать ресурсы, чтобы базу построить. Ты только базу построишь, скрафтишь себе весь этот транспорт и так далее, и сразу вайп. И начинай сначала. Блин, ну, я не знаю. Что-то, блин, вообще. Я надеюсь, что все-таки будут какие-то сервера, где вайпов не будет. Ну как, блин, можно было бы бояться, что на тех серверах, в которых не будет вайпа, еще вот, ну почему это очень странно, там, ну, во время показа этой игры, да, рассказывали и показывали то, что там есть система налогов. Вот чем больше база у тебя, тем дороже тебе надо будет налоги платить. А какого фига мне тогда налоги платить, если через неделю все равно базы не будет? Поэтому как-то очень странно. И вот, ну, вот система с налогами, например, на
Как
серверах.
я поняла, там не так проблематично с ресами, как в Арке. Видела стрим по бете у зарубежного стримера.
Ну, слушай, на бете они могли тоже рейты повысить, чтобы за эти, ну, там, выходные или сколько там это бета было, чтобы тестеры могли намного быстрее все протестить, посмотреть. Такое тоже, я не помню, какую мне игру давали, бета-тест, и там тоже все рейты были повышены именно на бета-тест. Вот там даже в описании было написано, что, ну, чтобы не думали, что такие рейты останутся навсегда, что это именно на бета-тест такие рейты. Так что там еще неизвестно, как будет. Вот, и, например, если бы были сервера без вайпов, вот эта система налогов, она довольно хорошая, потому что если вдруг какой чувак перестал играть на этом сервере или там, ну, вообще перехотел играть, то, например, он в течение недели там не зашел, не заплатил налоги, все, его дом нахрен пропадает, и все. И вся проблема.
Хай.
Привет, привет. И не было. Между прочим, вот было бы прикольнее даже, я думаю, ну ладно, в Арке там налоговую систему как-то странно было бы сделать. Это все-таки выживалка про динозавров. А, Ну, например, в
Получается, и
Конане.
на консоли выйдет вместе с ПК. How are you?
Это Дюна? Дюна нет. Ты что это решил со мной по-английски разговаривать? I'm fine. Thanks. Э, На консолях еще даже неизвестно. Вот э, я очень надеюсь, что когда выйдет на ПК, тогда скажут тоже, когда на консолях будет, но пока вообще неизвестно.
Good man.
В школе домашнее задание? По-английски разговаривать с кем-то? Еще вот будут эти дропы на Твиче у этой игры. Можно будет на халяву там какие-нибудь скины. Вот насколько я понял, здесь нету такого, да, здесь нету. Там у одного этого разработчика база была из таких интересных а, построек, там прозрачных стенок стеклянных много было, и они сказали, что вот такие скины можно будет заработать на Твиче, просто смотреть стримы. Здесь, мне кажется, нету. И тоже, что я заметил, вот, ну, как там же, как он, этот спайс, ну, типа, надо будет собирать, да, и там в одиночку его будет очень-очень трудно доставать. А,
В общем, когда в арке, контент на какое-то время закончится. Как сейчас до этой обновы, ты можно купить, а так и арка хватит.
Ну да. Блин, мне даже обидно чуть-чуть, потому что в июне почему-то загрузили с этим контентом офигеть. Поэтому я даже особо не переживаю, что эту игру ну, еще не дают консольщикам в июне. Потому что вот 2 выходит у Арка крупное обновление, плюс на карте Астреос новый биом откроется, там какое-то время будет контент. Плюс 18 июня выходит Рагнарёк карта, и в тот же самый день выходит обновленная версия Раста на консолях. И там тоже я хочу контент поснимать. Но у меня, конечно, в приоритете будет Арк и Рагнарёк, это 100%. И когда Рагнарёк выйдет, скорее всего, как всегда, с выходом новой карты, я как минимум 8 часов там стримить буду. Это как минимум. Потом уже не знаю, что там дальше. Вот было бы хорошо, я не знаю, э, Дюна, если бы где-то в июле или в августе выпустили на консолях. Не, ну хотелось бы и пораньше его получить, да, но... Ну и потом еще в июне открывается предзаказ на это чудо, о котором ничего пока не известно. Но я надеюсь, если в июне открывается предзаказ, что они покажут что-то побольше. Мне как-то, блин, кота в мешке тоже неохота покупать. Особенно сколько он, говорили, стоить будет? 15 долларов, кажется. Потому что, не знаю, мне по трейлеру кажется, что они там будут экспериментировать с этим дизайном, сделают мультяшный арк и придумают, что это опять какой-то там, блин, или сон у кого-то, или этот самый, блин, симуляция. В таком стиле сделают. Десмод переделанный будет, между прочим. Платная оживка новая будет, и вот как этот пироман, вот Десмодуса переделают, такого зомби, будут продавать. В принципе, возможно такое.
Платная живка будет дракончик на спил.
Да, я слышал. Ну, на этой карте еще лиса какая-то будет.
Дракончик, переделанный Синемакропс.
Ну, типа, эту карту они, ну, сделали так, типа, это будет как мост между э, Генезисом и Арк 2. Хрен его знает. Ну, вот тем более страшно становится, потому что вот Генезис как раз и первый Генезис считался как симуляция, второй уже там на корабле, а вот, короче, не знаю тоже, не знаю.
До генезиса же еще далеко.
Ну да, и поэтому я тоже удивляюсь, как они так как-то посередине эту карту засунули. Просто им, наверное, нечего было пихать. Ну, скорее всего, ну как, было же в планах, что весь переделанный арк должен был уже, мне кажется, весь контент выйти. А, нет, вру. В конце этого года должен был выйти Генезис 2. Ну, типа финальная карта, и потом уже вот Арк 2. И, скорее всего, они вот эту карту Lost Colony, они уже давно подготовили, но так как у них все там тормозить и ломаться начало, то вот выходы карт тоже начали тормозить. И поэтому, не знаю, может, у них какая-то дырка в этом, как он называется, в дорожной карте образовалась, и нечего туда было сунуть, потому что другие карты не доделаны, и поэтому решили эту карту туда засунуть. Короче, не знаю. Не знаю. Так, ладно, буду я заканчивать. Смотрели этот стрим. Вообще сегодня не планировал вечерний стрим. Ну, хорошо, что увидел, блин. Я записывал себе, ну, конечно, блин, записать в
Это в
телефоне.
любом случае неразумно.
Ну да, блин, а у них этих неразумных идей слишком много. Не знаю, чем разработчики иногда думают. Ладно, ладно, буду заканчивать. Надеюсь, все-таки там будут какие-то нормальные PvE-сервера в Дюне. Вот. Ну а так, ждем выхода
Ладно, спасибо за стрим.
обновления в арке. Пожалуйста. Вот. Ладно, всем спокойной ночи и до завтра.